Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and thanks for stopping by. Welcome to Starbase Weekly, the RGV aerial deep dive into images he captured from the ground and air in Boca Chica, Texas. Our dedicated team will guide you through with the latest updates and theories at Starbase, Texas. Channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon for future streams.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Starbase Weekly. My name is Mauricio and this is episode 60, right? I'll pass this to Zach.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Starbase Weekly live stream. Really excited to be with you all for episode 60. Got that right, Mauricio? So, yeah, really excited. Got some awesome photos for you guys today, both from the air and on the ground. Looks like the weather was cooperating today, so that's really exciting. I will pass this off to Thomas.
Thanks, Zach. This is going to be another amazing week. There's so much to go over. It's going to be so exciting. Can't wait to jump in. Off to you, Jax.
Thank you, Thomas. And hey, everybody. Welcome back to yet another Starbase Weekly live stream. And yeah, there's definitely some stuff to talk about this week. I think it was a pretty interesting week, to say the least. So yeah, shall we get into it?
I might as well jump in. Man, I've been waiting for this view for a long time. I'm really glad that we finally got this one. How far out of the coast did you have to go to get this, Mauricio?
We're definitely outside the TFR, so it went out pretty. I want to say maybe, honestly, I don't know, maybe like 10 miles just to get this wide shot of. You can see everything. You can see Starbase. You can see Massey's. You can see in the background there the Port of Brownsville, the ship channel. And you can actually see Matamoros, which is a city in Mexico, over to the top left. And Brownsville is pretty much in the center of the screen to the top.
Can you circle in on some of these points here?
Yeah, he was going Zach? A little fast for me there. So we have Brownsville up here, right? And then this is Matamoros?
Yeah, to the left.
At the top left, where all the white spot is at, that's basically homes. That's Matamoros. That's more congested than Brownsville is. There's not that many trees over there.
Yeah, they're divided by the Rio Grande, and I can't find quite the division. It looks like it's just right where those homes end. Well, it could be even further in, because it on the Google Map side of things, it's just dense homes and then like the Rio Grande for a lot of it.
Yeah, and so on the right side we have the port, right?
Yeah, go up to the top left of that part of the port, just above that. That's last week where we saw where they dropped off from Miss Lizzie. They dropped off all the tanks, the transport stand, the piping, all of that. It was at
Is
the
this
top left
Jacqueline?
up there. Oh, I don't know. It could be. I mean, I thought Jacqueline was up further, but it could be.
Because this is the aircraft carrier, right?
That looks like one.
Yeah, I think
It's
this
a
might
bit
be Blue Origin's Jacqueline right there. It looks kind of blue right there, and it's mostly stripped down. I think it seems about right. I don't know. Sorry. So where was the port where SpaceX delivers their material at? Is
Well, it was this particular time. It was up to the top left, right there, where your mouse is
This one?
just to the left. Yeah. So go up and the left a little bit, right there. Yeah. So between those two spots is basically where that is. Port 10.
Mhm.
And they delivered it last week, and then you can see all those windmill blades just to the left of your mouse.
right here.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
so much detail you can see in this.
And
It's
the port
amazing.
access road is right here, right?
Yeah.
Going across.
And
So this
then
is wait, hold on. Does it go
it goes all the way to Highway 4 over to the left.
right here? Okay. I was like, where does it go? It's pretty long. Yeah. I've actually driven across this twice before, and I don't remember it being that long, but it is pretty significantly long because the checkpoint, the Border Patrol checkpoint is
It's just
right here.
right there, yeah. Just to the right a little bit more is the checkpoint right there, yeah.
Okay, right there. Yeah, so when you come in on Highway 4 from Brownsville, this is like pretty much the last area right in here that you can. Actually, I think it's like back here where you can actually stop and get anything. Actually, no, this is the last intersection, isn't it? Or is this the neighborhood?
There's
So weird from this angle.
There's like an abandoned gas station right where you're circling, and then just one intersection over. It's not that far up, right there. Yeah, is the intersection where you actually have a gas station and everything else that you can use.
Yeah, so it's a pretty windy road. You can kind of see it coming up right here. Or actually, sorry, it goes all the way up over here.
You can even see the airport. Actually, go up to the top left a little bit. You can see the airport. So Brownsville International Airport with South Padre, and then you can see there's like that little triangle thing just to the left bottom of your mouse, or where it was. So it's now up, and then to the right a little bit. Left up, and then just down a little bit. Right there, yes. That triangle is the basically the guiding navigation beacon for Brownsville, right there, for the airport. No, down.
This
right
one.
there, yeah.
Is there just like a blinking light?
No. It's a radio communication system that helps guide the planes to Brownsville.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that. I think if I pass it, like in person, I may actually recognize it, but
yeah, just little landmarks.
From this distance, it's kind of hard to know what it is.
Yeah, bring us down and then go to the left a little bit. On the river, you can see Rocket Ranch, just right there. So if you're coming down here to visit, that's a great place to go. I've visited there. Some friends staying at Rocket Ranch. They've got all sorts of great accommodations. And then right there, you've got Massey's. And it looks like they're just a hop, skip, and a jump away.
I know, right? If you back out and see the full, like how you can get a better idea for how far that is away from the build site. You can even from this angle almost see the road construction that's happening all the way along this. So I guess it ends right here. And then I don't believe they've done this section, which was, in my opinion, I thought was the worst section. And it also, I can't tell if they're doing this in here, but I don't think they are. And I don't know, Mauricio, do you know which areas they're actually having road construction at?
So it's going to be, they're done with Massey's, where Massey's rode all the way up to about.
So all of this they did?
Yeah, I probably should do a diagram just to show off where
they did
area.
And haven't done.
No, I haven't done a diagram, but they're actually working on that road leading up to Sanchez.
Right here.
Yeah, right there. That's what they're working on right now.
You got another wide shot that shows that really well, and we'll get to that in just a moment.
Yeah, I can actually swap over to that one. Before I do, though, this is a really cool view as well, looking back at South Padre Island.
You got the causeway going off to the left that goes to Port Isabel.
It looks so small from this angle. And this is the Sapphire condominiums, right, where Lab Padre Sapphire Cam is on top of on this building.
And it's about 400 feet tall-ish, but it's shorter than the integration tower by a bit.
All right, let me go back to the other one. Oops. Oh, wow, that's a really good angle, actually. So I was looking for near the build site, so we can see the actual construction over there. See if... I don't know where that image went. I don't think any of these are going to show it. Oh, I think this one right here.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and so it looks like they've I think last week or the last few weeks they did this side right here, facing us, and right now they've got one lane on that side and are doing the opposite lane. And this is actually, I guess this was a really big problem area. This was the part that was all wavy, and the reason is partially because oftentimes when you get like floods through here, the water ends up going over this and over to the next area. So the road will be like flooded out during those high tide times, or I don't know if it's high tide or if it's just like from stormwater drain off, but either, yeah, probably a combination of both, but it's just constantly going over that road. So I don't know, hopefully they've actually added a little bit more road base to raise it up just slightly, although I don't think it's going to matter a ton, but it's similar to like outside of the launch site. They did the same thing, and that area had a ton of water underneath it, so they had to dig down pretty deep in order to like add all this road base in order to stabilize it a little bit. I can't really tell from this angle exactly how much of that they're doing, but I mean, I'm sure anything is better than what it was.
I love how you said earlier the road runs itself basically, and I was like, oh, that almost works.
Yeah. Well, I guess let's hop over to the Massey site. We got some exciting things happening over there. This is the drone shots from Thursday or Friday, I think, actually. And so this interesting about this flyover, Mauricio. I don't know if you want to tell your story about the wind conditions this day.
Not really, but it was pretty windy, so we had a limited amount of time to get these shots before the winds picked up. But at least we got something, for that flight.
We don't get the full story? All right, that's fine. Now everybody's going to be mad I brought it up. Well, we have, like I said, this was Friday, and then we were able to get another flyover in on yesterday morning, which is also why we were kind of delayed on today's show. So I'm actually just going to go straight to those images from yesterday, so we can, because I don't think there was like a ton of change in between those 2 days, but it's still worth like seeing the flyover images a little bit more because they have so much more detail. It's crazy.
Yeah, let's go first for that crowd station. You're hovering over it. I want to jump at it. Look at that. It's been set up. It's got the QD platform just sitting there waiting for all the plumbing, all of the connections for the QD mount. But it's there, and all of the connections, at least for the Starship, are sitting there, ready for a Starship to come along and just sit on it.
Huh. Are these like permanent pedestals that go right here?
They could be, yeah. So it looks like you could bring in the transport stand and you rotate it to where you need it. That's a bit different.
Kind of weird.
So you don't lift up the ship. You just use the SPMT to do all the work.
To just navigate it in, right?
Yeah.
I don't get how they would be able to lift something use the SPMTs to lift it on top of the pedestals, though. That part's a little weird.
Well, so the SPMT itself would basically be lowering down. So it does the lifting and raising itself.
Right. I guess I just didn't realize that because it has to lower itself to get underneath the transport stand in the first place, right? So like, I don't know how it could put something on top of these. I'm almost wondering if these are completely separate.
Well, so the way you would do it is you typically have two SPMTs side by side transporting the booster, booster or ship, and you can either do one of two ways. You can move it around and adjust it so that the SPMT is basically either a single one is in the center of basically all where you have all these pipe stands, and then you lower it down that way, or you can basically have the pipe stands in the center with two SPMTs on the sides, and then you can lower it down that way.
Right, that makes sense. Interesting. So yeah, we have a cryo station going here. This is basically the exact same thing that is at the orbital launch site. So I can grab an image really quick just to show those of you who haven't seen that. Let's see a good angle for this.
Yeah, give us a good comparison of between the two sites. So they're shifting all their cryo station operations from basically the launch site. So here's the ship side. You see the ship QD, it's pointed that direction. You can't really see you can barely see it in the mud. You could kind of see a couple of squares. That's where they're bolting it down for the ship. Oh, that's so much better. And then to the right, you can see where they've got the booster. And
yeah,
so
Go ahead.
So one thing that you'll see in comparison, going back to the Massey site, is we'll see that they've basically have the auger bits over at the top left. They are going through and doing that same exact kind of configuration. You can kind of see some more of where the holes are at. They're kind of hard to spot, but you can see them in the
really
configurations very similar.
It looks like it's actively drilling one right now. Maybe?
I think that's just off in the resting point, and it's removing muck and filth that's basically just on the bit itself.
Okay, yeah, I guess you can. Let's see if we can get another angle. We have so many images that we can choose from today, so might as well make use of them. Oh man, this is tough. Okay, so I see like just a few around this perimeter.
Yeah.
So
this is the outside perimeter, and then there's an inside perimeter. It's very similar to the stuff we've looked at for the cryo station for the ship, but this one would be for the booster. And if you go up to the plumbing, you can see how it's being plumbed. Is you've got a pipe rack going off to the left, and then the pipe rack is set to go to the right as well. You actually have two of them sitting there, but it's just a terrible angle to look at.
This is pretty cool.
Yeah, we're looking top down on the pipe rack itself that would go off to the booster. Just at the bottom right, you see these two, looks like vertical pieces, but they're, at least on this image.
Are you talking about these?
No. The one's just right there. Yeah, that one's a pipe rack. That one's a pipe rack.
Yeah.
They're already standing there, and you can see in the shadows how they're standing there.
Right. Yeah, so we have, this is interesting. I think this is similar to the drain that they have at the orbital launch site. This is basically like the drain so that they can let out, essentially like you're not able to like recover all of the cryo fluid that's being used during the test, especially when you're trying to clean out the vehicle. So that would be like similar to this one right here. Oh, okay. That's not the one I wanted. Maybe this one is. This one right here at the edge of the berm. So this goes all the way to the cryo station back here, which you can't see. But I think that's kind of a similar thing. It's weird the way they have that set up, though. I've never understood. I've seen this before, but I don't get why.
Well, they have to extend the berm, and then they're going to extend this pipe as well. So all of this will go over to the right further, and then it will change either direction or have that connector like you had at the other picture on Massey's. So that's why it's like this. It's not complete.
You don't think this is the end of it, where it just splits like that and recombines, and like the splits into two outlets for some reason and points them at each other?
Yeah, that'll be the end piece that they'll eventually put on it. But this is not done. So right. The berm is going to extend. This will possibly be extended as well for that weird little blast diverter wall they have.
Wait, where do you think the berm's going to go? Like back here?
Your mouse is kind of hidden. I think you're on the previous image.
Oh, whoops. Sorry.
Okay, so that's a different view. But yeah, so you can go back up to that top pit where it splits off. Yeah, so that actually is very similar to the same piece we have over at the Can Crusher. So if you just jump over there real quick, you'll see that they have that same system just right there.
Oh, right here.
Yeah, so they just drop it all off because they can't detank it. So the booster and Starship, it looks like the beginning contaminants are dumped and the end contaminants are dumped. I'm thinking that they actually will save the stuff in between because that's most likely good, but they'll still have a strainer basket system to help remove the debris that could be coming in with it as well.
Yeah, and so we also have, it looks like they've been removing even more concrete. So let's see it from this angle. So we had this pad up here. It's just getting smaller and smaller, and they have these tanks that are stored here. I have a feeling these may actually be going to the launch site, but we'll speak on that one a little bit more when we get there. But yeah, the berm that used to go all the way through here, I think they had originally removed it up to this point, but even more of it has now been removed back here. So I'm thinking that we may see some more expansion back into this area, but I don't know what that's going to look like.
Yeah, they're removing all the trees, shrubbery, everything in that area. It should also be cleaned up pretty soon as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still expecting like an actual operations center, you know? And so I think it would make the most sense for it to be back in this area, or I guess even in this front area right here. But they haven't really started any new construction on this yet, this pad that they cleared out.
Yeah, that was basically like a house, and then it became a business for Massey's, and that's where they ran most of their operations from. And they had some other buildings as well, but it's all gone. It's still Massey's at heart, but it's very different.
I really just like this location. I almost wish they could launch from this little island. It's not an island, but it's what is it? What's the proper term for this? It's not an island. Almost like does this count as a peninsula?
I don't know what you call this, but it's basically what's remnants of the river. So this is the Rio Grande, or it used to be, and it could have even been this way. Like this could have been Mexico like 200, 300 years ago is what we're basically looking at. And the river changed, and the borders changed with it, and they got finalized, and this is where things ended up.
So I don't know, Jax, do we have any changes with the actual Can Crusher, or is this just still sitting here
Big changes.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of activity with the Can Crusher over the past week or so, and they're setting up to do some pretty interesting testing. And I know we have some nice ground photos of what exactly they have hooked up. So just quick premise, this is test tank B7.1. Its primary purpose is to test out the booster's aft section, structurally verify it for the force of all of the Raptor engines, for what it'll experience during max Q. And on the right side of it, right of the QD area, they have added this piston on a rope. So it seems that they've added some kind of tie-off onto the ground, and they put this rope and a piston attached to the side, and they're going to be applying these forces. They're going to pull on it from this little piston. And this is that's an interesting question, because it would almost be, to a degree, some kind of bend testing, some kind of lateral force. So it's
and we can see that from the aerial view too. It's sitting right here. That's really odd.
That there's a cone right there. That cone is holding it all down.
that is a heavy cone.
It's actually anchored down, but next to the cone.
But so they're going to be performing some new kind of tests on this test article, I'd assume ahead of the orbital flight, because this is related to Booster 7's design. It's just yeah. It's just interesting that they feel the need to complete more testing, and it begs the question of what exactly they are testing with this. So as the booster is descending after stage separation, and it would theoretically be coming back to the launch site, it would be at somewhat of an angle, and those chines are going to be providing some type of lift force. So it could possibly be related to that. It could be.
Is this where the chines are mounted?
Well, that's the interesting part. It's not, but I can't figure out what else necessarily this would be related to. Maybe something about the gravity turn on ascent. It's interesting. This is definitely a new kind of test.
Well,
one way to
attach to.
One way to look at it is when they're pulling on it, it's kind of making an oval. So you're pulling on it in that direction, and you're also pulling down, which is that those two together is a weird way to test, and I don't understand that part.
Oh man, I wish this rope wasn't here so we could see what it's attached to.
Probably just a clevis attached to the test article.
Yeah, this is probably one of the weirdest setups I've seen just because of that alone.
Pretty exciting though.
Can Crusher, the most versatile structural test stand
at Starbase. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, hold on. We got another image over here showing that cryo station. It looks like, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, yet to receive the umbilical panel, but that is the framework that'll hold all of the cryo pipes.
Oh, hold on. This angle right here might actually show it. No, it doesn't. All right. Well, shall I return back to the aerial view?
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else over here at Massey's that we should probably touch on? I'm sure we maybe have some questions as well.
Well, I guess we do have the new tanks that have been shipped in from
KSC.
From Kennedy Space Center. So those are sitting out here at Massey's now.
Yeah, no signs that these are going to be installed out here yet, but I do think there are some signs of where these may go. But we'll, like I mentioned earlier, touch on that in a little bit. I think we can maybe switch over to the Sanchez site unless we have some questions, Mauricio, that from
Well, there's one thing to point out is just to the right that on the pad, of the can crusher,
okay.
You've got this structure right there. Zoom in on it real close, and then go look at the nose cone jail. It's the same exact material, same exact configuration and size.
Whoa!
Oh wow! They're building a bigger nose cone jail.
They might be removing part of the nose cone jail and then reusing the nose cone jail, so it could be a shorter version.
Yeah, and I think that's something we can touch on when we're at Sanchez.
Is that the base?
What's going on with? The base is still at
underneath. I mean, there's like a frame underneath there that looks.
Yeah, there's more material. Wow, missed that.
Yeah, because I think what we're expecting for that nose cone test is rapidly evolving. So it'll be interesting to touch on once we get over to Sanchez and the build site.
All right, well, let's do it. I guess we don't have any questions that we need to touch on, so.
I mean, we had a couple of questions and a couple of donations here that we might want to go through. So the first donation is from Andrew Springer, 1999. Just want to thank you all for the work you do. Thank you, Andrew. Jim Cavett gifted one membership to somebody, so please thank him for that. And also 55 Chevy Guy, $10. Let's get a donation train going. Flying time, Sunny Biscuits costs money. Mauricio takes amazing photos for us. Thank you, 55 Chevy Guy. And let's see here. We got Jim Cavett, $5. All aboard. I'm in. Thank you, Jim. And we got the questions from one of them from Error 404. Question: What are in all the tanks at Massey's? LN2, CH4 locks.
So right now, we know that these tanks right here are storing liquid nitrogen. We believe these ones are labeled as liquid oxygen, but that's probably most likely what they're going to store in there, because usually they'll use liquid nitrogen in the methane tanks, and then they'll use liquid oxygen in the liquid oxygen tanks, except for sometimes with initial cryo tests. But yeah, these are also possible to be like, they can switch them over to something else if they want, but I think really once you fill them for the first time is kind of what you want to keep them as. I think you can go back and forth between liquid nitrogen, liquid oxygen rather easy, but I don't know if it's so easy to do that with methane. And these ones over here are labeled as, were these liquid nitrogen? Or I think they were labeled as liquid oxygen as well. I'm not 100% certain on that one of the two. But again, they can easily replace that with a different fluid if they want to.
I believe they were liquid nitrogen
Okay.
on the labels.
Cool. Well, any more questions on Massey's?
Let's see, one more from Low and Carl. The two concrete square diagonal to each other in the ground, is that buried pipe work or conduit? Where would that be going?
I'm trying to think of where he's talking about.
Diagonal to each other.
I
Is what he
assume
said.
center screen, just the like the vaults in the ground.
These?
Yeah, that would be electrical conduit.
Oh, yeah. So there's, I think the electrical line actually the conduit goes straight through here.
And then goes off to the left further from there. And then around the perimeter.
Yeah, aren't there more? Hold on, let me get a better view. I think it
You can
came
see
all the way
the end
over
where
here.
that cone is. Yeah, see that cone? So those are
Is this
additional
it?
conduits, and then it basically follows the perimeter all the way around.
Right. Yeah, it goes around, and then I forget where it comes under. I think it comes underneath here. Oh, it must go like right underneath where these are. These panels.
Go up and to the right a little bit. You might see another indicator.
You know, I just like to mention quickly that we've already passed 1,000 viewers on this stream.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining us. To those who joined late, we appreciate all of you. If you just hopped in the stream, or if you've been here actually as well too, do us a favor and hit that like button. It'd be nice to get a little thumbs up from all of you if possible. We appreciate all of you for being here on a Sunday. Sorry that we had to do it on a Sunday because Mauricio wasn't able to do the flyover until Saturday, thanks to the weather this week. So glad all of you were able to be here with us on a Saturday or Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday as well too, because that's something we got to contend with today. Oops, sorry about that.
It puts a little bit less strain on Mauricio to not do the flyover live.
Yeah.
So that's basically what he does. Sometimes I'm like, no, we should push it back to Sunday. So that's partly my fault. And I think it's just a better way to go.
A good reason to give the thumbs up, the like button, is because today is actually an important day. It's Mauricio's wife's birthday. So, it's really awesome that he was still able to be here with us today, even though it's his wife's birthday. Maybe she doesn't feel that way, but, maybe we should show him a little bit of appreciation for being willing to do the show with us today. So thank you, Mauricio. And on that note, Mauricio, do we have more questions on Massey's?
No questions here. We did get two more donations. One of them from 55 Chevy Guy, $5 for 950 viewers. Thank you so much, 55 Chevy Guy. Smooth Juice, $8.99. Haven't got any questions, just sending you a little support as a way of saying thank you for all you do. Come a long way since the start of the hobby, and it's only getting more excited. Great work. Thank you all for the donations and the support. And yeah, happy birthday to my wife. Gonna make it up to her when we go out for dinner, so it's all good here.
Awesome. Well, we are now at the Sanchez site, and just a few weeks ago we were just talking about this place getting a little bit more cleaned up and
it's packed again.
Organized. Nah, not anymore. It's back to the way that it was. So where do you want to start here? Let's just start on
left
the left
to right.
side.
Yeah,
let's go left to right. This is a good angle right here. So first of all, we have the boring part of Sanchez, which is the United Rentals maintenance yard or storage yard, whatever you want to call it. But immediately next to that, we can see all of the new pipework that got brought in from the Kennedy Space Center. basically the Pad 39A complex. So this manifold is part of a water deluge system, which we've been expecting to arrive. And man, there's tons of pipes all over the place. We have some, we have some diameters on some of these. I know that, I think these ones down here were actually labeled. So I think we have some ground images that I can pull up on that. Let me go ahead and see if I can do that.
Yeah, the label on those pipes is bizarre as it is intriguing. So there is a theory behind that when we get to it. That was to the left more.
Real quick here, I just wanted to give a donation here from Crane Man. Hi, Mauricio and RGV.
There it is.
Team. Love your work. My donation for the fuel and the treat for your beautiful dog. Keep up all those flights. All the best, Crane Man. Thank you so much, Crane Man. It's a $50 donation. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Now zoom in on that label, and Sonny definitely sells, Mauricio. Look at that label. You posted this on Twitter a little bit ago. That is so bizarre.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that it has that label on there because I mean, it says where its destination is to. So to the ST08 flame diverter.
Probably was probably intended for 39A, but that entire system got canceled for the flame diverter. So I hope we're not getting a flame diverter here, and it's a water deluge system, because that would have been a system that was hooked up that was going to be a flame diverter and a water deluge and everything else that we had basically being built up that's being brought here. I think that would have been for that. It's just the label is too clean. That's the weirdest part.
It looks like a new one. Like there's no way that's an old label.
I asked, well, could they been stored inside of a building for a while? And Phil, the kid's like, no, they're not going to be storing those in buildings.
Well, they did have a tent. They had several tents set up at the Pad 39A complex for a while. So maybe, I don't know, these could have been in the tents.
Maybe. But they have had to been like pretty cool, because those stickers are thermal. So it's like a receipt. If you heat up a receipt, it turns black. So those are the same kind of system, I think. Unless those are printed ink, but they look like the thermal ones.
I would just like to point out to everybody who's always getting mad about units, everything that's delivered to Starbase is in Imperial units. So this is why we have to talk in those units most of the time. But let's go back to the aerial view. Now that we know that those are 20 inches, we can see that, these are 20 inches right here. And then these got to be approaching like probably just under 3 feet.
Oh, they're about 4 feet.
About 4 feet, right? This one's 4 feet.
That one's a little bit bigger than 4 feet.
Really?
Yeah. So that's approaching more of 5 feet on that one. So the one thing is you're going from these larger pipes, especially this, and then you will go down to the smaller and smaller pipes, especially as you get closer to the end. But mostly it's going to be around the 4 foot mark up until the end. And then at the very end, you're looking at about 10-inch diameter pipes coming out of things.
Right. And so, I don't know, maybe we should do something we don't normally. No, we can hold off and talk about these at the actual launch complex. So we'll do a little inventory at Sanchez first, and then we'll show what the inventory is going to be used for once we get to the launch site. But we have some more. What was that?
To which that inventory from last week right here.
Yeah. So these were here last week, right? And
well, at least this one right here that was over by the welding tents behind the container wall. Mm-hmm. So they moved it over here after they were done welding it. The reason why they're doing this is you can put it on flatbed trucks. You can assemble it on site. So that's what we're going to see is this is the completed sections for now, and they will complete later the rest of it on site.
Right. Yeah, and we have some more pieces over here, and then we have a really fun one down here.
This one's huge. Like, if basically describing what this means, this is a lot like the 39A water deluge system, except it's not. It is, but it isn't. So it's not a ring, but little sections.
Yeah,
it appears to be.
I have a render that we can show here that kind of gives an example of what this looks like, thanks to Benedict 3D. Maybe we can throw his link into the chat somehow so that y'all can follow him on Twitter if you would like to. But this is, you can kind of see how these pipes are angled. One comes out at a weird angle, and then I think the other ones are actually kind of on the top of it, or they may come out at another angle as well too. I can't really remember since the last time I've seen them in real life, the real life image of this. But yeah, this is a little bit different though, because this is an actual, will actually go around the entire perimeter. So this is what the one at Pad 39A looks like. And we were kind of expecting that they would do something similar at Starbase. And now we know that there will be a manifold underground. So right now it looks like, it kind of looks like, you know, just little nubs right there, but I'm pretty positive that they will add additional pipes onto these. First, they have to, you know, install the elbow section, I guess, first, and then they'll add the pipes on later. There's a chance that they may wait to do that before they get it to the launch complex. But yeah, they're at least getting started on that on this one. I'm actually expecting, because this is about the same size as this one right here. So I'm wondering if we're going to see nozzles placed on that one as well. But this is just about wide enough to fit in between two of the legs on the launch mount.
It's even weirder though. So you've got this piece. You have to go from the Highway 4 direction from the aerial, because you won't see it the other way. We only have one shot of this. That should work. Yeah, zoom in on that piece right next to the right of the stands. Right there. Zoom in a little bit more, and it's to the left. It's that Y piece right there. Zoom in some more. You can see that the pieces coming out underneath the tarp.
Oh,
right there.
Like more nozzles?
Yeah, there's even more nozzles along this, and it looks like there's another image that's a little bit better, but it looks like underneath the tarp as well there are nozzles. So it's this entire section has nozzles on it.
See if this is a good one.
That might be the better one. Yeah, you can see it even better.
Wow, nice. Well, look at that. So I'm guessing this one will actually curve right here.
Yeah.
So this one will curve, and then we'll see more nozzles placed on that. This could be that curve section. It's actually not as long as I would expect it to be. But yeah, because this doesn't look like it extends off of this enough. But I think they're probably either welding these together right now or putting the actual nozzles on. Probably doing the same thing to this one right here. Like this one probably looks exactly the same as this, just going in the opposite direction. So I don't know. To me, it kind of looks like there's going to be at least 3 main sections of pipe, at least.
It's like a ring, but in segments and sections, and it's not connecting together on certain parts.
Exactly. And this kind of makes a little bit of sense about why they're kind of designed this way, because at the Pad 39A complex, they were really able to just put that system in first and then install all of the cryo tubes around the launch mount second. But this time they're doing it the other way around, so they're not going to be able to do just a perfect hexagon around the launch mount. They're going to have to actually do it in pieces. So this is going to get pretty interesting to watch them continue this. We have some more smaller pieces over here. Smaller sections right there. More T's. Man, there's just T's all over the place. Little caps down here.
We have a 90 over at the inventory tent that's just kind of sitting there, and they're probably going to pull it out eventually here as well. It's on the other side of the inventory tent, but
there's also let's move over to the inventory tent actually. So there's even more water pipes back here, and these kind of look like they're part of that as well, even though they're tucked back here. But while we're here, wow, look at this.
You can see the valve manifolds actually just to the right of your mouse.
Oh yeah, where are they?
And down. They're red, go down. There they are.
Down here. We actually had, I believe, a view of this from the ground, because it was really cool to see that. So let me try and find it really quick. in the background while I'm showing these. Maybe this might be the image. Actually, I think it was on the opposite side because there's a few of these valves laying around.
Oh, they're just everywhere. It's amazing how many valves are on site at Sanchez, and even at the basically next to pad A, they have valves everywhere.
I gotta find these. Let's see. This is like a scavenger hunt. I think when I saw them, they were laying next to some sections of pipe earlier, but I don't know. Maybe I'll have to find them from the air first because it's not the ones that are in this part of the yard.
Yeah. So quick thing to notify everybody: Friday, I think, or Thursday was the day we did the ground shots, and Saturday was the flight. So it's usually the other way around. Usually it's Friday we do the aerial shot, and Thursday is the ground shots. I'm sorry, Friday's the ground, Thursday's the aerial. Wow. Yeah, there's the 90.
Okay, yeah, there's the 90 section. I thought I saw more valves over here during the ground images. I'm trying to locate them, but I do not see them. That's fine. We will move on. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild how much stuff. I feel like this tent is just not large enough.
Well, it's the shelving. They haven't built all the shelving. They have to get everything in, and some of these pieces are a little bit too big. So we've got booster 10 segment, or not 10, but boosters header tank like segments all over the place.
Yeah, I feel like this tent, they could have just taken down one of the other tents and used it here because this is just appears not to be large enough. I mean, they already have all this racking on the outside of it, so I have a feeling that most of the racking on the inside is already set up.
Before we move on, Jax, what you were going to say?
I was just going to say, like, you look closely, the more you zoom in, it's just a bunch of parts. Like, this is a super cool area. You can see a downcomer for a ship right there wrapped in the blue. There's all the header tank pieces, like you said, dome parts. It's just, yeah, that conical piece off to the right, at the bottom of the boosters, methane downcomer. It's a sump portion. Yeah. It's just, yeah, this is all the really cool stuff to see. I like this area.
Yeah, the other side is pretty intense because they really have like close to nowhere to drive anymore. Man.
Yeah, look at all those valves right there. Those might be the ones you're looking for. There's just valves everywhere. Or not, they're the actuators for the valves.
Actuators right here. We got a bunch of booster skirt sections. I think these are part of the pipes that go to the LOX pipes that go to each of the engines.
Yeah, maybe engine covers off to the left next to that orange bit.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is wild. A ton of stuff out here, and a whole
literally
bunch of
tons.
random pipe that we have no idea what this is for. Definitely not part of a booster or anything like that. So
it's just like conduit for electrical or water, all sorts of useful things. More and more valves everywhere.
So what we're thinking also about this is that by the airport, the Brownsville airport, they used to actually store a lot of Starship stuff in the yard next to the airport.
We see some of that in the ground shots if you want to pull that up.
From the airport?
From the ground shots, not the airport, but of the left side of the tent, this side of the tent, you can see on the ground shots you were looking at before. There's some pieces that Jax can point out for you that are directly there. So zoom in on that top left area next to that tank. Jax, which pieces are these ones?
Yeah, so I was talking to Starship 3D about these, and these look like the COPV mounts for COPVs inside of the ship's nose cone. However, while all of the ships have COPVs in the nose cone, these kind of look like older generation ones, like prior to ship 24, so ship 20, 21, 22. those kind of vehicles. So it makes you wonder how much of this is new storage. Maybe they have some old stuff just lying around, or maybe I don't know, maybe they're changing the design again. Who knows? But it's pretty cool. Then just below these, those look like a bunch of doubler plates, kind of sitting horizontally.
Right here.
Yeah, those are pretty cool. Off to the upper right, some type of tank structure. It's a black wrapped
Right here.
cylindrical type piece. Yeah. Over to the right again, what I can only presume is one of the chines on the booster. It looks like a chine. Yeah, then there's a bunch of other stringers and reinforcements on these shelves. This tent is just, it's for all of that very fresh hardware that's not put into any rings yet. Then when they're building the sections, when they're making the vehicle parts, they'll take the inventory from here and go weld it into the ships, go mount it, put it in, whatever. It's pretty slick.
It's just amazing how many parts are just populated this area. So old parts, new parts, parts that we will be using for the launch site. Even let's say if there's going to be a cryo stations at Massey's, they might be bringing parts from there, or they might be here as well. It's just full of stuff. It's all the goodies you want to see. It's like Christmas Day looking at all this.
Yeah. So moving, I guess, a little bit more to the, I guess this would be west. They have started. We saw last week they laid a bunch of conduit down here. You can actually see the boxes for them right there. So it looks like they're filling all this in, and I can only guess that they're going to pour a concrete pad here soon. But one of the interesting things about this area is that they've actually. So we know that I'll skip this for now. We'll come back to that. But we know that most of this stuff is probably, or at least this is going to move out soon to the Massey site, and a little bit to the north of that. I'm just making up directions, by the way. I don't know if that's north.
North is up on this one.
Yeah. So you can see them breaking out the concrete back here. So I have a feeling that they're going to actually extend this pad. They just want to redo it. And yeah, I'm expecting that this water tank may actually leave, and then I need a view that shows like the whole thing. Sorry, probably a good one right here. So we know that they have these additional cooling towers, basically radiators. And there's 8. I think there's 8 of them total. 2 more up here. So kind of expecting that they'll extend that down in this direction, and this is the first real signs of that breaking out this concrete over here. So yeah, exciting to see what they end up doing back here once they get this structure out of this area. But on that note, Jax, do you want to talk about this one?
Oh boy. So this is the nose cone testing cage base, and we looked at the cage back at the Massey's testing site. This is the bottom portion that we'd have the nose cone sit on. And there's sort of a lot of questions. I think it'd be, yeah, perfect. The ground photo. This is begging a lot of questions because something different is going on. This didn't exist back when they did serial number 12's nose cone, when they tested that back before all of this new stretch form nose cone designs and whatnot. And so on this structure, you can see that they have 3 hydraulic pistons faced or mounted to the top of it, and each of them has a blue load cell. So those are going to be measuring the amount of force being exerted. So if it fails, they'll know when it fails. And that's going to be pretty interesting because we know that those are going to be pulling on something. The only thing I think the general consensus has been those will be pulling on what's essentially the crusher cap. So the nose cone that they use for this test has been de-tipped, if you will. They've cut the tip of the nose cone off, and they have this black testing piece that they'll replace it with, and that's going to essentially try to crush the nose cone, sort of like how the can crusher operates. And these theoretically could be what's pulling on those. Back with nose cone 12s, SN12's nose cone, which they tested almost 2 years ago, they only had one piston pulling from the inside. So it makes you have to wonder why are they possibly pulling a lot harder this time?
Well, one of the other things that we kind of figured out, Jackson and I, when we were looking at the original nose cone jail, is that, and let me actually just pull it up really quick so we can show it. The original nose cone jail had a piston that came through here and another one right there, and they were used to like pull the nose cone this direction and that direction. And so when we look back at the oops, that's definitely not the one I wanted. So when we look back at the at this, you can kind of see that this maybe kind of allows them to pull it in 3 different directions.
Well, one thing that you also want to do
Or
is look at the
X
top
and
down
Y.
view again, because there's another element that you're kind of missing. So this isn't the best picture of it. So select a different one, and it'll probably show up a little bit better. But there's a hole in the very center of that triangle, so it looks to be that there will be 4 pistons, not just 3. So the original had a single piston going all the way down to the base and pulling directly from there. They might still do that, but it would be going through this hole. It's like there's no other reason to have that there than to have the original 4th piston, or the original piston there, and then the 3 extra around it to pull in different directions.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder if we're going to be looking at something different this time around. For the test, I think originally we kind of just assumed that they would do the same test that they did 2 years ago, where it was a forward dome, a payload bay, and a nose cone inside of the cage being tortured.
They put a hole in that forward dome too.
Yeah, there was a lot of modification here, and I think it's ever clear that this thing is not forward dome compatible. The forward dome would block this new structure on the cage base, so you'd be removing a very large portion of the dome. So if we go back to the ground photos, we've noticed that they've added lead-ins on the side of the sides of the bases, the sides of the bases around the circumference, and they're these inwards facing lead-ins. Yeah, and those are going to help guide the test article into place, so it's centered, and they use these during stacking and aligning things. It's
What
pretty
type
standard.
of lead-ins are these?
Well, that's the interesting thing. And typically, inwards facing lead-ins are used for nose cones. And you might be like, yeah, well, of course, this is the nose cone testing stand. What are you talking about? Well, generally, what we had anticipated would be a nose cone stacked onto the sections I talked about before. So you'd be essentially putting a ring on this. If they're using lead-ins that are typically used for nose cones, this begs the question of what if they're just going to put the nose cone on this and they don't use the cage at all? Or if they shorten the cage and do some kind of weird test. I've been looking around the Star Factory and places like that, and we originally thought we'd seen the forward dome section for this thing, but it doesn't. That seems to have dropped off, and it doesn't seem like we do have one. So we know that there is a payload bay that is very clearly for testing. It's possible that what they want to do ahead of the orbital test flight is just verify the stretch form nose cone. Ship 24's payload bay has been welded closed it's been welded closed with the steel, and then there's been additional welding on the interior. So might be fine. Like, they might be confident enough that they don't need to structurally test the payload bay ahead of Ship 24's orbital flight. If so, they could just kind of try to test the nose cone maybe, and then let's say they take this nose cone off later and then build the full article after the first orbital flight. Because I think time constraints are going to start coming into effect here. The general expectation is that the orbital flight is going to be next month, the month after, Marchish, I think. I think a lot of people are seeming confident about that. And I don't think that they're going to have this. If they go with the full scale 8 rings and a nose cone inside of the cage, I don't think they're going to have that done in time. And this is a pretty crucial test for Ship 24.
It seems to me like this right here, these extra tabs that they have right here, or that the ring that we saw at Massey's might go on top of that.
And it could. There's a lot of open possibilities here.
Yes.
And maybe what I'm saying is wrong, but I think what we need to start considering is just alternatives to what they did with NC-12. We might be looking at something pretty different. And if just to kind of skip ahead, can we go to the nose cone at the low bay? Just because it kind of...
Before you do that, I want to see the ground shot if we can help it, because you're talking about it. Zoom in on this piece right here before you go to the nose cone, because look at the bottom piece where you said that you think they might attach the nose cone jail. So there's those points that are basically pin systems, but they're pivots. Go to the left a bit more. Actually, between them. So to the right, there's those pivot systems right there. So those should be a system that would be another pull-down system based off the structure and the way that they have it set. So that one's a bit odd. It's another element to add to this whole, like, how they're going to test nose cone 31 mystery. So let's go to the nose cone one now that you're ready.
Yeah, so, and I think what's important to note is that if we look at the side of it, there are flap hinges. So this thing is designed to do flap testing, and typically we've seen that done with the nose cone cage. The nose cone cage is the hydraulics for that and everything. So that's why I think we're looking at something a bit more complicated here, maybe.
There's a hole in the side of it, I just noticed. Have you seen that yet? Just big old hole.
The new nose cones have, I think, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I've just tried not to think about it because they have to be plugged at some point, surely.
Well, this one's a test article, and it's got all sorts of other parts that could be tested, like pressurization. But if it does have just massive holes in it like this, there's no way you're pressurizing it.
So I think what I wanted to talk about over here was that you can see these wires kind of wrapped all around the nose cone. And these wires all attach to strain gauges. Just quick, a strain gauge is typically going to detect any deformations in the seal, stretching, compression. There are these little sensors, and they're just at the end of the wires, taped over locations. You can see they have 3 strain gauges.
Go 2 images over, I think, or 1 image over. Either one of those should be better.
Yeah, I think we have a nice photo of so you can see the little yellow dots. Those are the strain gauges. And they already have these attached, so this thing surely can't be far off from testing. And if you go back, to 2 images again towards the base, right at the base of the nose cone, they have a lot of taped up stuff, and I think they even have strain gauges on the bottom of it. And that makes me wonder, like, do you really want to be welding all near that? Like, that's coming really close to where the robot's going to be welding if you're putting these on beforehand. So yeah, it's just something to consider.
So are you basically thinking that it's not going to be on top of a barrel section?
It's a possibility. It's a possibility that it might not at first, and they could do a test, maybe take it off and do another one with the barrel. There's a lot. This is rapidly evolving. This doesn't seem to be necessarily what we anticipated at first. Something else seems to be happening. It's very intriguing, to say the least.
Go back to the picture of the strain gauges. A couple of things to point out that we were observing. So zoom in really close to that one and then move up a little bit. You can see they've got some writing. It's outer mold line, skin. What was the last part? Header?
Yeah, it was the skin header, and then the number for the strain gauge.
And then you can also see the strain gauges have little marks like a plus sign, especially on the bottom left three, not these ones, but you can kind of see it on these ones a little bit. But basically, they're indication marks to say these are the exact location where we want these. So they went through and used probably a 3D total station, which is a laser guided system to give you exact coordinates of where you want things, and you basically can measure it out and mark it off as you need to. So the bottom ones are a little bit better to see on those lines. Just to the left. Oh, there. Other angle.
Oh, sorry. I was just trying to see where this goes.
This test is pretty critical, I'd imagine, just because Ship 24 is using a new nose cone design, an untested, unverified nose cone design. So I can't imagine that they do this after the orbital flight.
This should be thinner material. It's supposedly like 3.6 millimeters or something thereabouts for this as well.
Yeah, it might be. I'm not sure.
We know that the barrel section is 3.6. This is around that because it's stretch form. That's one part of being stretch form is you actually lose material because you're pulling it away, but it also makes it stronger, and you get the actual shape out of it that basically does additional strength. So you can reduce a lot of weight. Then you still have your stringers and everything else. But every time you do the welding, you're going to have a heat affected area. That's where you get warping and all that stuff. That's no good.
And that's kind of why you wonder, like, would you really have strain gauges attached to this thing when you're welding it? Especially towards the base. That's why I'm kind of like, and I'll say Rohan, one of the other ring watchers, is the one who came up with that idea first and told it to me. I'll give him the credit for that, I guess. But
so if you're going back to Sanchez, so we don't stay on the build site too long until we get to the build site, we can go back to the top of the stand here. You can see those three hydraulics. It could be that they're going to be pointed outward towards the skin of the vehicle and be pulling the skin basically down and in, so that you're testing it as if it was going through max Q in another way. So you're pulling down and then you're pulling the outer skin in. So along that curved ozive, you can basically have a couple other points you're pulling from. So it's not pointed in as these are currently pointed in, but they would be pointed a little bit more out, is another way to look at it. We'll see eventually, I hope. This is such a cool test that they're going to do, though.
Yeah.
Myself, Grandpa Joe, and Philkid were the only ones to see the actual test with nose cone 12, so it's quite enthralling to see the test happening again.
One other thing I wanted to point out over here, and I don't know if we have a ground image to show it. I was looking for that. But for some reason, they have Booster 8's aft section wrapped up. You guys have any thoughts on that?
They're probably going through and adding the materials as they need the lift pin system as well as the walkway and other things they're welding on. So that's probably what's going on here, is that they're doing hot work. You see a lot of scaffolding underneath as well.
Yeah, and I mean, Booster 4 is on, I think this is one of the last transport stands without the walkways and all of their new modifications. So could be related to that, or they could be, just like they did on Booster 5 stand, they could be pathfinding something completely new.
That would be fun.
We had a couple of questions and donations, but let me just read this one question from John Dopker. Actually, not from John Dopker, from Gary McD. Could the internal cone sensor measure forces from the PEZ dispenser? Since y'all were talking about that.
Well, this would be above the PEZ dispenser. So if you don't have a barrel section, let's say for our test of the nose cone, there's no way you would be able to test the PEZ dispenser. However, as Jax pointed out, if they go through, do a load test on it, and then come back and then do a separate load test with the barrel section attached, you could have a barrel section that's just normal, or a barrel section that has the cutout. There's all sorts of possibilities that could occur, but the ring watchers would see that there's a new ring in town and it doesn't quite fit other ships. There's something off about it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we're seeing it a lot recently with B7.1. We saw it a lot with B2.1. Is that they reusing test articles is kind of their thing. They'll get as much out of it as they can, so it'll be interesting to see.
All right. Any other questions?
We had a couple of questions here from the water deluge, but do you want to touch on those questions now, or do you want to touch on once we move to the launch site?
Yeah, we'll hit that one at the launch site.
All right, so I'll just read off the donations here. We got one from Martin Horman, €5. Again, a great show every weekend. Thank you, Martin. Michelle V, 11.99 euros for flowers for your wife fund. Thank you very much. She appreciates it. I already told her that she's been getting donations in the chat, and her face lit up. She does appreciate that. MVN €2, Sunday Fun Day. Rocket Profit $10, flowers for RGV's wife. Thank you, Rocket Profit. Jem Cavett $5 flower fund. Jazada $5 for Mauricio's wife's birthday. Thank you so much, Jim and Jazada. Blackadder €10. Imagery is awesome. A little something to keep it going. Thank you, Donald. Berline, super sticker for $20. Scat, €10 payments to get me off this naughty set for being late. Thank you, Scat. Nose Cone Gel, super sticker, $10. And that's it for now. Thank you so much for the donations. Really appreciate it. And I guess we'll move on to the next area.
Cool. Well, I guess that puts us at the ring yard. And really quick, before we touch on the ring yard, Mauricio, if you could throw up a poll in the chat. I'm just curious, since we do have so many people in here today, this is actually a record for us. I'm curious how many of you are joining us for the first time today, or if I guess the other option would be if Sunday is actually easier for you. So I guess those would be the two options for that chat. I am curious how many first-time viewers we have in here today. So I guess we'll see the results of that when Mauricio gets it up. But continuing on, what do we have new at the build site, Jax?
Well, I guess I want to talk about our little friend in the high bay now. Well, who was in the high bay? Ship 26 rolled out around midnight last night to the launch site. It's already on suborbital pad A, which is pretty sweet. Oh, there it is right now. Is this live?
Yeah, that's live. Thanks to this is Lab Padre. It's the Nerdle camera. I think we actually have Rover 2 looking at it as well.
Ooh, that's not good lighting.
You said that's not good lighting?
That is not good lighting at all.
There's no good lighting with Ship 26, unfortunately.
Wow. Anyways, Ship 26, yeah. I've heard some people mention that it looks a little different. I can't see it, so yeah, I'm not sure what you're all on about.
So what do we think is in the near future for Ship 26? Obviously a cryo test while it's sitting on the test stand A with the thrust ram simulators.
Yeah, we'll probably see a couple of cryo tests on pad A with it, and this is just such a cool view. We haven't had two ships on the test stands in over 2 years, with serial number 9 and 10. So it's pretty exciting. I know it's not a traditional ship, but it's cool nonetheless. And Ship 26, I think a lot of people are confused about. Rightfully so. I am. And I think I do want to talk about it just for a second. So 26, quite obviously has no tiles or aero surfaces. And it's going to fly that way. They won't be added. However, it is a apart from that, it's a pretty standard ship. It has the 2 header tanks in the nose cone. It doesn't have a PEZ dispenser, but it'll have its 6 engines. It doesn't have anything necessarily saying it has the ability to mate with another ship in orbit for a tanking demonstration. Not to say anything couldn't show up, but at this point in time, it just seems like a standard naked ship from the exterior side, at least. Um, and yeah, uh, it's. I think we saw in this view. Yeah, you can see it has its vents, it has its raceways. If you go left a photo, you can see that it has its raceways. Like this isn't an operational vehicle. It's not like a big test
Mass
tank
simulator.
or yeah, it's not like a mass simulator. This thing, it can fly just like any other vehicle. It just doesn't have those air surfaces or thermal protection system tiles. And 26 is actually quite a cool vehicle because it is a another revision, sort of like how Ship 24 was different from Ship 20. Not quite as major, but it is yet another revision. And I put out a thread on the Ring Watchers Twitter account last night during the rollout, going over some of the basic changes with it. And overall, I think the consensus is that Ship 26 is a more robust vehicle. It has more stringers, longer stringers in places, additional stringers. Ideally, when they open up the tanks, they shouldn't have to have it attached to the crane.
By the way, earlier, Jax, we were talking about some of this and asking the question of how much it could lift since it has no flaps and everything else. Like, what do you
Yeah.
think its lift capacity could potentially be? And we even talked about Elon's talked about this as well. Do you think this could do the 250 metric tons?
Yeah, and I mean, that's an interesting question because we know that SpaceX's website was fairly recently updated to show, was it 150 and 250 or 100 and 250?
Yeah.
Figures for reusable to payload to orbit and expendable payload orbit. And Ship 26 is in fact expendable. It's missing a lot of hardware that would add mass. So it can carry more to orbit than Ship 24. Not that it will. Let's make
no
it
way
ever
to-
clear that this vehicle cannot carry payload to orbit. But theoretically, this design of vehicle could. I'm not sure we'd be at that 250 ton. They aren't exactly super mass efficient yet, and I do wonder how much that number is still aspirational. But I can't imagine it'd be all too far off.
Well, if you let's say instead of being 150 metric tons to orbit, let's say it only was capable of typically like 100 tons for a normal starship. You go through and say you use up the header tanks because, well, you have the fuel inside, and now you have that a little bit addition capacity, and there's no flaps, so you've lost the weight there, and wind resistance, everything else. You should be able to maybe hit like 200, right, or maybe thereabouts.
And you just brought up a good point there, because when they quote an expendable vehicle, do they consider that without header tanks and the mass of that propellant inside of it? Because Ship 26 does have its header tanks, and I think a lot of people are wondering if it's going to do some kind of demonstration transferring propellant from the headers to the main tanks, which I believe was some contract that SpaceX got. So there's a lot of open possibilities with Ship 26. It's actually quite an impressive vehicle. As weird as it looks, it should be quite capable.
Well, to kind of nix that a little bit, though, is you could do that with any vehicle with flaps and everything else. You just couldn't do the landing burn if you're transferring the propellants around like that.
Yeah, which is why I think that Ship 26 is more. I think a lot of people are looking at Ship 26 at face value, where they're like, it's this and only this. I don't think it necessarily has to be that way. If they wanted to say, let's see how propellant boils off in orbit, let's test out this transfer thing on the inside of the vehicle. You can do multiple things. It doesn't have to be like, it does this one thing, it does this one thing only.
It could be the HLS version in a sense because it has no flaps.
You could get aerodynamic data on things. It could just be this everything vehicle that's just going to do it quick and efficiently, get a bunch of data. which is why I do think Ship 26 is somewhat exciting because there's a lot unknown about it, but it could have big implications.
It just doesn't look good. But it has a just basically power packed version of testing that it could do.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on from Ship 26, we have its naked counterpart, Ship 27, off to the left. And I don't. Do we have any photos of its Pez door this week on the ground side?
I don't know if it's possible to see that from the ground, but let me check through the ground images really quick.
All right.
Oh,
so
maybe
what-
if he maybe from the beach view, he probably has one.
I think it was from Highway 4 peeking off from the
Not
side.
the beach view. Let's see. Swap over to ground images really quick.
While you do that,
this one?
Ship 27 is going to be yet there we go. Yet another tileless, flapless vehicle like Ship 26. Although Ship 27 is capable of carrying payload to orbit. And that's where the question of how much can this thing carry, because Ship 27 has a larger Pez dispenser, a rack on the inside. It can carry more than Ship 24 or 25 could. Ship 27 has an upgraded door opening that ideally shouldn't need to be welded shut. And it's going to be that expendable variant that we talked about, where it's going to be lighter. It may be able to carry more to orbit. I don't know if it'd be interesting to see if they cut out the header tanks or something like that. They could do anything. But yeah, you can see this Pez door here. It's looking pretty beefy. I think they did this a couple of weeks ago, but you can see there's a lot of doubler plates, increasing the thickness of the exterior edge around it. And they have
these are all 14 millimeter plates, and this is 16 millimeters thick around here, right?
4mm plates all stacked up.
That's
yeah,
thicker
it's
than
pretty-
Starhopper.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
about
right.
16 millimeters total there. Yeah.
So they made this thing pretty damn beefy, and it doesn't have the stringers on the sides of it anymore, but these should probably do more than what those would have done. And that instead of just being on the sides, this sort of continues around the entire perimeter of the door. So overall, it should be stronger, and you can see these remove before flight.
Sorry, I was trying to see if we can see it from that other side, but no, we cannot.
You can see these remove before flight plates that are they're sort of jamming the door closed. Right now, if they were to command this door open, it would just be stuck. On the side, they've added one. You can it gives a view of how these things are mounted. If you scroll up a bit, there are these plates that are bolted into the door
Where?
itself.
In the middle part.
Yeah,
right
it's
here.
right there. So they kind of bolt into the door, and they just kind of grab onto the side of the ship, because the Pez door opens by kind of tilting backwards and sliding up, and these things are going to stop it from tilting backwards, so it can't move. So I think some people think it could be for safety. I know Stumpy brought that up, and that's a pretty good guess. Yeah, they have this door pretty securely locked.
And then part of somebody's guess was static fires as well. So when you're having static fires, we seem to have some sort of issue after a static fire with Ship 24, and they wanted to weld the door shut. And it's like, what happened? We'd love to know, but this is the best indicator of what could have been the problem.
Yeah, and that's sort of been my approach to looking at this. SpaceX typically works in a way where when they do things, it's as a response to something. Not always, but a lot of the time when you see major kind of out of the blue changes like this. So it makes you wonder if they need this door to stay secure, maybe vibrations could have caused issues or something. I'm not sure quite yet. It's something to think about. But
Interesting. Well,
yeah.
Shall I head back up to the aerial view?
Yeah, I think we can talk about the ring yard a little bit. So we have. There we go. So starting off at the top, I guess, we have Booster 10's methane tank. been sitting outside for a little bit, mostly completed. This will be stacked onto the liquid oxygen tank. This part has already been finished, so once the LOX tank is ready, which we have some ground photos of, I believe, they'll be able to put that on.
Which
After
one?
we can talk about that later. Let's just go over the ring yard for now. Off to the right of Booster 10's forward, we can see Booster 11's forward dome. It's not quite finished yet, not ready for stacking, but it's sleeved at least. It's pretty nice. Yeah, so then, oh, that barrel. That was a shocker. And I think this week has been the week of Ship 32. So the barrel that the cursor is on is Ship 32's aft section. I don't know why. They're building ships fast. Aft sections always come pretty early, and we actually have photos. They've just started Ship 32's nose cone as well.
Oh, wow.
It's Mauricio has photos of Tent 3 from the Remedios side, from the ground.
Yeah, and I wanted to quickly show some of the efforts that Mauricio had to go through to get some of those images this week. So I'll just take a quick detour around what we were just talking about and show this. So this is behind the Mega Bay, near where the hovercraft dock is. So awesome effort from Mauricio getting out there to shoot some images for us. Man, he's a rapid fire. Just no delay.
So, how much water were in your boots, Mauricio?
I mean, I lost track. I mean, when they get wet, they get wet. It's not really. I need bigger boots. That's probably what I need. Longer boots up to my knees to avoid that issue. But yeah, it's usually not that bad out there. But we had a cold front, so the waters were pushing in from the north side. So I didn't even get to make it all the way to get a shot of the mid bay. That's what I was trying to do at this point. I was trying to get out there, but it started to get pretty bad, and you start sinking in the sand below, so it wasn't working out. So I turned back around.
Well, the worst and scariest part when I was out in the mud flats was how slick it was. And I was afraid I was going to fall over and get the camera wet or muddy or both. Is that a fear that you pretty much go through every time you do this, or are you feeling good and stable each time?
Well, I was almost going to fall over a couple of times, so that's why I was like, yeah, it's not really, I don't think I'm going to get these shots of the mid bay, so I'm just going to turn back around. But yeah, it was fun.
Thank you so much for the effort. Like, even getting these shots that you have from the ground are amazing every time.
Yeah, they're pretty valuable photos. They tell a lot. But
you wanted to show
what did I from the Remedio side, he got some shots into Tent 3. Off to the right, I think you just passed them. Yeah, there.
right here.
Yeah, so if you go one photo to the left, right to the left of the doorway, you can see curved piece of steel, and that is the start. It looks like they've just started putting panels on the work stand, but that's the start of Ship 32's nose cone.
Wait, what?
Yeah, just above the boom lift, the orange boom lift to the top left in the shadows, just up a little bit, and then left you can see that
Right
little
This
bit.
right here?
Yeah.
That's it.
Rain, sleet, or mud. Jeez, Mauricio, you take all the weather elements. I can see that it's raining in this photo.
Crazy.
I don't know how you even see that nose cone back there, but
if you go over to the one photo to the right again, we have Ship 28's payload bay, which we haven't seen in a while, and it's already tiled actually. Pretty well along it looks.
what else do we got out here? We have Ship 27.
That's Ship 28's nose cone, and it's nice and tiled. Ship 28 will be their return to tiled ships, yet another vehicle revision, but we're still learning a bit about it before put out any tweets or anything. Just below that, we have Booster 11's methane tank section with a lot more stringers. And this part right here is, if you know the chopsticks, they have those stabilizers that kind of connect to lower points. That's one of those lower points, which is pretty cool to see. Yeah, we in that photo right there, we have a booster thrust dome, and this is an interesting one. We'd been calling this Booster 13's thrust dome. It should have been Booster 13's thrust dome. It's not Booster 13's thrust dome.
Is it?
Booster 13's thrust dome or thrust section has been sleeved. It was sleeved this week-ish, last week-ish. So we're kind of wondering. Usually when you have a dome sit outside for a while and it kind of gets weirdly skipped over, and you see that all of the holes on it have been recentered with plating, if you zoom in all the way, that doesn't necessarily bode well for a dome. All of them have like writing saying that they need to redo some work on them. And
Wait, what does it say?
I think it says recenter. I think they did the holes too big, or something like that. Nick was looking at them. I can't remember exactly what it was, but that dome might have been dropped, and so that could just be abandoned and garbage.
Trash. Wonder why they haven't just scrapped the whole thing yet.
Well, you could use it as the test article. That's probably why it's just sitting out here and rotting.
Very true. So more from the aerial view, we also have, I don't think you can see any of the rest of this from the ground. I thought it was interesting that they moved this, the Raptor maintenance platform from the launch site back or to the production site. And so this is like the first time it's been here since it was, actually it's never been at the production site because it was built in the Sanchez site, and then they like sent it straight to the launch complex. So I think they said it was there for, I can't remember how many days it was at the launch site, but quite a long time. And it's weird now that it's here. I can't tell if they've been adding stuff onto here or not.
It seems like they're doing maintenance on the actual platform. They've been angle grinding at the pad, like the landing pad. Then they brought it here. They're doing a bunch more work on it. So it's like, and then they also did a lift test the other day. So they lifted it up and brought it back down. All these kind of indicate that there was some malfunction with it, and now they're making some changes and adjustments and improvements and all of the above, basically.
And I think one of the questions is that, I mean, we're going to touch on, I think, this week's big event once we're over at the launch site, but it'll be interesting to see if we see this get brought over to the pad to pull some engines on Booster 7, or if they don't need to. It'll be interesting to watch out for.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that this came back here for that exact reason. So it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing over this next week. I'm expecting a big push to come this week, and we'll see more about why that is as we get to the launch site. But what else do we have over at the build site, Jax? I think, there's a really cool one if we were able to go to the Star Factory now. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to touch on out here.
Yeah, we can go over.
Cool. So yeah, let's hit up the Star Factory. So this is oh wait. Okay. All right, there we go. So this is a interesting photo of the Star Factory. I guess one of the first things that we should point out is that SpaceX has received, I think this is 2 bridge cranes right here. This is one piece of one bridge crane, and 2 pieces of one bridge crane, and this is one of another bridge crane. And then they also have another full one right here. So interestingly enough, Grover is outside of the Star Factory. They've cut holes in the roof. So at this point in time, I'm assuming that Grover was actually lifting one of the bridge crane sections up. So we haven't seen any holes on this side of the building yet. But it looks like they're at least adding one to the middle aisle, and then one to the third aisle. but nothing on this side yet. But it's interesting because this is very similar to what they had to do with the high bay when they had to cut a hole in the roof in order to lift up a bridge crane. So interesting times seeing that happen again. I was always wondering how they were going to do this, and this was something I was wondering about the Star Factory in Florida as well, because they put the roof panels on before they actually lifted up the bridge cranes. So I was wondering if there was a way to do that from inside the building, but I guess this kind of answers that question. So funny to kind of see that happening right now. But that is an interesting sign, because obviously another bridge crane means that you can do way more work. So you're not sitting there waiting on if you have 5 workstations in each aisle, it's probably more than that. You won't be sitting there waiting as long for the bridge crane. So they'll obviously double the amount of productivity that they have out of this facility, which is crazy to me because it already feels like they're moving at a super high rate. And I mean, we still haven't had a first launch yet. So it's like, dang, you're increasing your production rate already. But yeah, interesting to see that progress. And still nothing as far as changes suggesting that they're getting ready to start on the remaining sections of the facility, which is interesting, but also kind of expected because it's not fully necessary right now. But yeah, that's probably our update of the week from Star Factory, unless Jax, you have something else that you've noticed.
No, I mean, there's not been anything too much, but yeah, this should increase their capacity in their capacity to work in there. So that should be 3 bridge cranes in the 10 facing aisle, 2 in the middle one, and for now at least 1 on the closest one. Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
And down here, I was wondering if they have finished this road yet, but no, they're still forming all of that out. They've finally added a fence in here to kind of make it a little bit more difficult to see inside of tent 3. But yeah, I guess that's kind of all of our updates from this area. If we move a little bit more to this direction above the wow, this is a really awesome image, being able to see all of this in one image. The ground fabrication building, not really a whole lot happening out here either. Actually, I think hold on, let me grab another better angle of it actually. So it looks like they're building a Starship transportation stand right here. Nothing super exciting. Do you guys have any idea what these are?
Well, they look like some sort of pipe stand, but they are way different. It kind of reminds me of what we have over at Massey's slightly. They've got different angles on the base of them. But actually, both sides are the same there. Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting that half of them have this little double collar in the middle, and the other 3 don't. Not sure what to think about that.
Big news is just up ahead, up above there. It's missing.
The grid fin?
Yeah, it's gone. Went over to Mega Bay.
Oh yeah, I think there's 2 of them sitting outside the Mega Bay right now, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, Booster 11's grid fins.
So I guess we should expect to see Booster 11 start construction or start assembly here soon inside the Mega Bay.
And with the amount they're collecting parts for it right now, it should go pretty quick too.
I really like seeing booster production going rapidly because that seems to take way longer than Starships. So exciting to see that happening. But I can't truly get excited about it until we have our first launch. So that's why I'm not like as obsessed with the ring yard lately. But moving on, we did see this odd object right here get painted and assembled behind that building a few months ago, and now it's back outside. No idea what it's for.
This one is really weird. It's lopsided. It's not completely correct. Like there's
is that just because of the sun?
No. You can see it from the ground shots too. It's like it should extend and continue on the right hand side, but it doesn't.
Well, we have 3 pedestal cranes sitting out here. I think these are actually really early because of how tall they are. I think these actually go in the nose cone section of the Star Factory. So it's interesting that they've started gathering up material out here for that, even though they haven't actually started constructing that part of the facility yet. But yeah, those have actually been outside for a while. Other than that, I don't know if there's a whole lot more to cover over here. So I think we can probably move a little further north to the village. It's a cool angle of it.
We're still looking at the. There we go.
So wow, a ton of work. Am I crazy, or none of this was back here last week, right?
No, I mean, it's actually been since Monday of last week, so we've got quite a few days. So it was like the 30th, and now we're on the 12th. So it's almost been 2 weeks in a sense.
That is a lot of ground clearing right there.
Yeah, I looked up some of the properties here, and the weirdest one is that top left one here. It'll go up a little bit. That one right there. So let me go back to the property. It was labeled as how is this described? The Roman Catholic Bishop of, and it's like Brownsville, and it's like I guess they must have leased or sold it to SpaceX because all the rest of this is either SpaceX land or the I guess you could call it a paper road. So where the vehicles are to your right, yeah, those would be what's called John Street, at least on the paper road. So they're kind of building out that road going through here. So it'd be parallel to Weems, which is just below us. And then up above, it's not labeled what that would be. But yeah, this one would be called John Street. At least Google Maps calls it that.
Interesting. They got the turf coming in here. Still 2 more little trailers that they still have to bring in here. I like these little villages that they have.
Maria said something that was interesting the other day, that they're no longer going to be doing any more of these trailers and airstreams and things like that. What they're more oriented towards is the tiny homes that are like the rest of these, the new ones that are being built. So that's the direction they are headed, apparently. And then even crazier, if you go down, and we talked about this with Dave on.
Yeah, what is this?
It's a show home. These are all different show homes. So this is what Dave and I were talking about the other day, and it was like, whoa. So each one is unique, and they're all different. So it's like, this is the one you could get, and that's why there's turf right there. It doesn't look like they're for a living. It looks like they're for just showing them off.
Interesting. So this is more for like employees ordering homes?
Yeah. Like, which one do you want? All right, honey, I like this one. It's got a great sink and kitchen, and it just feels so much better than the other one.
Kind of cool. I was wondering why they had that turf here, so that kind of makes sense. Interesting. I wonder if that is mostly what's going to be back in that neighborhood then.
Yeah, probably. It's a lot of SpaceX properties are over there. There's additional properties that they do not have access to yet. Like there's these foundations that are going to be built here. They're a lot like the other homes. So like these ones that are down here. But yeah, those are coming up very quickly. It's whole neighborhoods being built.
They got a ton of material down here to continue that too.
Yep. There's still tons of junk in that tracking station, like the booster puck over there that just needs to go away. I don't think Gwen Shotwell has seen this area yet.
Oh man. All right, let's move further north. It's almost 2:00, so I want to make sure that we have plenty of time to cover stuff at the launch site.
There's tons to go over on that side.
Tons to go over. So we're also at the northern end. Thomas, do you have anything you want to touch on here? Because this kind of looks mostly the same to me.
Looks like maybe a little bit of concrete, but that's about it. And they've got to the right, and actually right in the middle of your screen, if you zoom in, and then just go up and left a little bit. This area, it looks like they're getting ready to pour a pad, but it looks like somebody else came in and messed up things, like working on the AC units.
Like they actually drove in there.
Yeah. So yeah, it looks like they're getting it all leveled and graded and ready to pour a pad, but they haven't done that quite yet.
Less dirt is always good.
And one thing we've seen throughout Sanchez, Massey's, and you can see it here too. Zoom in on just that dirt area right here to the left. All of the recycle bins basically are out. they're taking the trash out. So
Wow.
those are the scrap bins full of metals and other materials. They are really trying to clean the house out. It's spring cleaning. Came
Good.
early this year.
And I think we touched on last week that they had finished the roof of the prancing pony. I think this is actually finished probably about 2 weeks ago, so nothing too new over there. But with that being said, I think maybe it's a good time for us to head over to the launch complex. But before we do that, Mauricio, did we have any donations or questions that we wanted to touch on?
Yes, we have a couple of donations here. The first one being from KC, $9.99. Says this for Miss RGV Ariel. I see she got a nickname, Miss RGV. Okay, I like that. We got another donation here from Rocket Profit, $10 for waiters or waiters. How do you guys waiters, right?
Yeah.
So all right, thank you for that. We will rocket you $10 for fuel, amazing equipment, and cookies. Thank you so much for that. John Dopker, $2. Go get some waiters. Thanks for that, Mauricio. Appreciate that. Grace Hopper's Crunch, $4.99. Any chance of syncing live chats hats for playbacks for those catching up after the stream starts? I didn't really get that question, but we'll figure it out and we'll look into that.
But yeah, you could get waiters at Cabela's or Walmart. I recommend looking at Cabela's first and then hitting up Walmart if you don't find what you want, because Walmart's going to be the cheaper stuff and you're not going to find typically the waiters you want. So Cabela's first.
All right, and now some questions here. One from Crane Man. Is there any news on the Starship lifting jig? And I don't think there is. It looks like it hasn't really been changed much, right,
Nothing
Thomas?
moved. Yeah, nothing's moved on it. We're still looking for that one additional piece, which they could build at the GSE site, and we see like a million of them that are close enough. It's just needs to be a little bit more than 9-meter diameter, but nothing new.
All right, and then the other questions are mainly in relation to water deluge, so we'll ask them when we get there. But yeah, thanks for the donations and support, and moving on to the launch site then.
Cool.
Pad A looks a little bit different now. I mean, this was yesterday's flyover, and already today there's a whole starship sitting there.
Well, whole starship is a questionable way of saying
It's whole. It doesn't have all the other good bits, like heat shield tiles and flaps.
90%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping that they were going to start moving around some more dirt in this area just so we could see what they're actually going to do over here, but I don't see too much progress. Pad B is mostly the same, I would say, from last week. Not really a whole lot to really expect over there, I guess. They did move this crane over, obviously, to lift ship 26. So I'm wondering if we'll see a static fire this week from 26 and also that cryo test from, 25 and then cryo test from 26. I mean, we have closures on Monday through Wednesday, I think, this week. So I wouldn't be surprised to at least see a static fire. And with having it that close to 26, there's not really a whole lot to worry about since there's no tiles to get damaged. So that should go pretty well. But let's see. Let's check around the suborbital area before we. There's not really anything happening over here, honestly. Let me get a better angle.
And the only interesting part that we've been kind of talking about is all of the ready ducts. There's just so many. It's too many for, let's say, Pad C. So that was the original speculation, is that they're going to be building Pad C up about where the ring is at. But it might be we're looking at the components for the OLM2 and the integration tower and all of that. So it could be that we're seeing build up for that instead.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was expecting that they were going to continue more on the berm this week, but maybe they're actually going to start the backside first. You can see this excavator back there. Kind of tough to see what he's doing with the shade, but
How did he get back there? He must have gone on the berm itself.
That's a great question.
Been going uphill along the edge of the berm, and that's going to be the last thing he fixes where it's been driving, I guess.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting excited knowing what's coming up. So, orbital pads are kind of boring. Let's move over to the orbital tank farm. So, over at the orbital tank farm, we got some interesting updates over here. And I'm gonna have to find the good view for this. Probably straight on is a good one. So first of all, start with the boring stuff. Last week we showed that they had the rebar laid out down here, and it looks like they've poured a little slope back there. So maybe this is like the one angle I have where you can kind of. Oh wait, I lied. Actually, you can see it right here. So you can see the little slope that they have right there. And actually, while we're on this angle, you can also see the pipes that are coming through here. So
what's weird is that there's a pipe stand on the right-hand side as well. That throws me off.
Let me see. We can't really see it from this image. I really need. Oh, there we go. Landing pad. So
it could be where that turns down, right?
This is very interesting. So one of the things that I've been noticing about these pipes is that they're basically the same as the two that are here for the methane tanks. So I was kind of thinking there's a big chance that the 3 tanks that we see sitting at Massey's currently that were recently delivered will actually be placed in here. And so one of the other things that I've noticed about these pipes, if we go and look at them from the ground, wait, let's see, I gotta get a view from the front. So if we look at them from the ground, where are we at? Right here. So you can see that on some of these pipes right here, there's an actual flange. So it looks like another pipe will connect on the bottom over there. And I think I saw a few more as well too. There's one right there. That's actually the only one I found. But it looks like something is going to branch off of this right here. And there may be more of them on the backside that we're not able to see. But again, even from this angle, you can see that these are almost identical to the ones that are back here for the other tanks. And so these are for regulating the gas pressure inside the tanks. I think one of them collects gas so they can liquefy it, and the other one is for pressurization of the tanks. So one in and one out, essentially. But looking at that from the aerial view again, to me, it looks like that's the only thing I can think of because of the fact that the pipe stand ends right here abruptly.
Can you zoom out a little bit? I just want to compare the tanks to the left. Oh, I guess you have to go to the other image.
What would also be interesting is, and I don't know why they would want to do this, but they've reinstalled the scaffolding up here. So I don't know if they're actually working on this or if they're maybe going to start disconnecting these. Like, I don't know why they would do something like that, but potentially moving them over further away from all this other stuff at the tank farm. I highly doubt that's what's happening, but it's just an observation to note that they're working on this actual tank in here. But the interesting thing is, if they bring that over here, those tanks will kind of get in the way of the fill stations on the landing pad. But
we have a good photo that would show this side and those other 2 tanks, because I think that would be a good way to from the air. Sorry, even one of those original ones that Mauricio was showing, or that you were showing at the very beginning, had a wide shot, but just a wide shot of
from which angle?
Any angle, just to compare the 2 areas. So one area is this area you're talking about, but you want to see those tanks that are to the 2 to the left, because those are approximately the same sized tanks as the ones we have at Massey's that we have the 3 of.
Right. The ones at Massey's are almost identical to these, right?
I thought they were closer to the left ones. Shoot.
Let's look at them really quick. So
maybe my sense of scale is off again.
I mean, it's really hard to tell.
Give me a shipping container and I give you the 40 feet and 8 feet.
I don't know. I think these are pretty much identical.
You're right. Those are the smaller ones.
Yeah. So, if they do move those here, that would be interesting. I would just allow them to expand the amount of methane they're able to hold, which is crazy because I feel like they already have a ton of it. But one of the other weird things right here, and it's not weird per se, but it looks like they're putting up formwork so they can make a concrete wall here, which I'm really glad to see because I was always worried that trucks could easily just back into these pipes, right? These methane pipes right here and cause a major incident. So kind of good to see that they're going to actually throw a wall up there. I'm guessing there's probably penetrations through there for the ports for the for filling up methane. But I don't know. I mean, there's also a possibility that they could have removed those ports. I
see them. I can see at least two of them. I can't see all of them, but I can see at least two of the ports. So there's the one that's lower I could see, and then I could see the one up above.
Well, there's one right here. There's supposed to be one there. I don't know if it's actually there though. I'm wondering if there's a chance that they're going to move the parking lot to this direction.
Well, then why are they, covering it over with a wall? That's weird. It's like I could understand why they would want an additional wall and then they move all the pipe work over, but why are they building a wall there when it already has a wall?
No idea. It's a good question. Just an observation. We have no idea what's happening here, but just pointing out some of the things we've noticed. But
okay, I see some things that we got to talk about.
No,
to the right
not
there.
yet.
No.
Let me just make sure there's nothing else going on back here. So, there really isn't. We have a ton more pipe back here that's waiting to be installed. So, from the ground, actually, we can see that, and we kind of showed this last week as well too. But from the ground, you can see that the way this pipe comes around the on the wall. So it looks like there's going to be another set of pipes above.
Oh, that's just the one pipe at the bottom, and what the heck?
Well, there's three levels of racking.
Oh, okay, that's new.
And these rackings, like, it didn't come on here, so they just like added it on. And I was really glad that they started cutting these down too, so that they're below the height of the wall. But it looks like there's going to be at least one more there, and then it turns and goes that direction. So I believe they've lifted more pipe in since that time, since this was taken, but I don't really have images of that, obviously.
Do we have a live Rover 2 view that you could jump onto?
Yes, we do. And I think Rover 2 is looking at.
It's not looking at it.
Yeah. So the one of the interesting things that we didn't talk about last week while I'm in this view, the water pipe, it looks like they've covered it with a shield, like some sort of like stainless steel shielding, which is odd. No idea why they would do that, but we saw it from the aerial view a few weeks ago, and we weren't really sure what it was, but now we have a little bit better of a view of it. Let's see it from the backside. It's actually easier to tell. Yeah, they covered everything, which doesn't really make sense because it's not like it needs insulation or anything like that. So I don't know if it's just to stop it from rusting or what. But yeah, just an interesting thing of note. But beyond that, I don't think we have anything else to really cover from the tank farm. So let's move over to the landing pad.
All right, that's a lot of steel, and it's kind of some big news there. I'm eating a bit of crow, but not entirely, which is good.
I've waited so long for this. Like, I think one of the second or third YouTube videos I made, I said that this was going to happen, and I've been very disappointed ever since then because there have been no signs of it until now.
So what are we looking at?
These are, you guys can see. So basically, we have 1, 2, 3. I think there's 11 of these panels for some reason. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So you can see that they're tapered in on this direction.
One's
So
short, one's long. That's another thing to note.
Yeah. Well, wait, what?
Yeah. There's one side that's longer than the other.
Oh, it's longer because one side is flat like this. It's a 90-degree angle, and the other tilts upwards, or I guess you call it downwards, whichever way you're thinking about it. And they have tons of cross bracing to keep them stable. But you can tell that when you put these in a pattern, they're going to create a disc. And so basically what we have here is something that we've needed for a long time. And this is also a really, really good sign of where things stand as far as with the launch mount. But these are basically shields that will go around the entire edge of the launch mount.
Yeah, definitely have to eat crow on that. But the one thing that's good is that the floor is still permeable. There, you can still let exhaust, or not exhaust, but gases out. So the thing that I always worry about is if you have a contained area that you, let's say, have like methane gas build up and a spark ignites, you basically have a little pipe bomb or a large pipe bomb in this case. You don't want to have that happen. But if you have an open floor, which this is a graded floor, that works out because you can let the gas out through there.
Right. So what I think is what we're going to see, and there's also, let me say that there's a possibility that this could be a two-way shielding game going on here. But right now, what I'm thinking is, so they've been adding in all of these very large steel beams in here. You can see that they've like cut holes so they can add more in there. So they're going to be doing this all week. They got to slide them in there, weld everything to this frame, and then also on the backside. And now that I think about that, interesting. I wonder if they'll remove these walkways now. So anyways, sitting on top of these beams will be basically what we're seeing on the landing pad.
So those walkways, the railings themselves are temporary. The only thing that you have to work with is the outer edge. You have a little bit of a gap that you'd have to either deal with or leave the temporary walkways, the railings. And actually go back to that side profile view because it actually does illustrate one thing that you're kind of missing. Go to the right side of this view, and you can see what's going on. So it actually sticks out. So it goes from the top, and then it zoom out just a little bit. Zoom out because we're looking at the profile. So these will stick out away from the table. So think of a kind of a cone with its top chopped off. That's kind of the direction we're going. So they will angle out and away from the top. So they will still have exhaust impingement, but not nearly as much as the tops of these.
Yeah,
the awnings.
What I'm thinking is they're going to match this angle right here. So there's two angles. You have the top one and then the lower one. I'm pretty positive that those plates are going to, those frames are going to come up like this and then reach over to the less inclined slope. So they'll basically overlap this little lip right here. And that is going to be a major job. That is so major. Like, not just as far as the protection that it provides, but I mean, for one, they've been working on getting these in here for about 2 weeks now. And so they finally seem to have cut most of the holes for where they're going to go. But they also have to add in all of these. And then once they add in all of them and actually put the covers on top, they're going to have to weld them on the bottom and to the top of the plate up here. So that's like a solid weld going all the way around the perimeter of the table, a weld in between each of the panels. This is a big job. I do not think we're launching at the beginning of March. I'm just going to say that right now.
Well, one of the things that's already in place to make things a lot easier, at the top of each awning, you've got 2 eyelets, which should be, if they've done it right and they built these correctly from the beginning, knew they were going to do this, which it looks like they actually were. They have the eyelets you could use with chain hoists. So you get the basically the plate in position with the crane. Use the 2 chain hoists to get it into the right position.
On there.
And it should be resting at the bottom as well. So it's got really 5 points of contact. These 2 up at the top, and then the 3 points down at the bottom.
Do you think it'll rest like right here, like on the edge, on the?
I think it would actually go under the lip or just along the lip, and that's where they would weld along. And that's going to be crazy for the amount of welding that they'll have to do. So you'd either planish it, but I think it's going to go with that lower piece directly. And so go back to the aerial view again. And there's been artist renditions of this around for a little bit now, and it's really interesting. It's like there's a common theme, and there's other pieces that are artist renditions. I don't like some of this because it's like it could be a lazy artist, or that's the direction that SpaceX is going.
Yeah,
For instance, like covers on the chopsticks. I hate that idea. I like open chopsticks.
I did post a picture this morning on Twitter. Oh, wait, was that last night? It is a terrible picture, but you really have to have seen this picture before to know what you're looking at here. But this is taken from a allegedly official drawing of the launch mount, and you can see a booster right here. This is so terrible, but you can see the plates, how they come down like this. And yeah, I mean, it basically creates a mini skirt or like a tutu around the orbital launch mount, which is...
Well, do you see how it like you've got the awning shape? You could barely tell that it's there, but you've got the awning shape, and then it diverts out and away from the bottom. So it looks like oh my goodness, a bundt cake is the way that it kind of looks like it's shaped, especially on the outside.
I feel like Googling that.
Yes, Google it. You've got a web browser, might as well.
All right, give me 1 second. I'm going to Google it.
Now, the inside wouldn't look like a bundt cake. We already know what that looks like. But the outside, it has that shape. And I make those
butt cake.
Bundt cake. But you see how it's oriented.
Oh man, that's funny. I like it. I kind of want
It's
one
the
of those.
general shape. It's not the slice part, which I love that. You always get the right servings with bundt cakes.
I
Anyways.
never really thought about that. That's super convenient, actually. Interesting. So looking on the
Food
ground,
talk.
looking on the ground here, we can see that they got a ton more of these steel beams to put in because they're resting on top of. Jax, there was some images of this from the ground. Are they public?
I don't believe so. I think they were somebody else's photos.
Okie dokie then. Let me see if I have some pictures from the ground to show these. So I don't know if we are able to see them from the ground. Jeez, so many images. This is what you guys get to become patrons. You can scroll through 340 ground pictures, and I believe there was 143 aerials this week. I'm guessing on that one, but 343 ground images this week. So
180 on flyover. Yeah, that's a lot. 349 on the ground.
This is a good angle, kind of. So what you can see here more than anything is that this bottom plate is relatively thin, and so is the outer plate. But look at that. You can see a top plate in the back. Oh, here's another top plate. Super thick top plate, 2 Cs. Yeah, this is clearly the surface that is going to be...
Yeah, look at the one on the left too. It's a perfect example. And then you can see the notches, and then you can only see the trash can actually doesn't cover up the other side, so that's good. Look at the notches as well. The best part is look at the notches and see where they would line up on the
wow,
the table.
Okay, I get that. I get it now.
Those would line up with those connecting plates for the canopies, right?
Yeah. They basically line up right here.
So they line up. Well, actually, I think they would go at the bottom, but either way, they'd line up in that section very well. So yeah, I think they would go underneath, and you'd weld it directly underneath, and you'd have like an overlap joint from the top going down. Because one thing you don't want is impingement and exhaust, like ripping one of those plates off and throwing it somewhere. It's terrible if that happened.
I'm almost expecting that they'll start shaving down the seam right here soon.
Well, they have extra awnings as well, so if they ever mess something up, they can always restart.
That was an interesting thing. Now that these are here, I was wondering if for some reason they need to like completely remove the awnings, some of them, in order to add these in here. Like these could be shaped differently somehow, although I don't see that.
You got 6 chances to get it right, though.
Yeah. Here's another interesting thing. So I think, oh, never mind. We already know. So these are the remaining plates for the stairway. But man, this is okay. So this represents a lot of welding in my mind. Like, every single edge of this has to be welded for all 11 of them. And honestly, there may be more of these on the way. I think the launch mount is technically 20 sided. So I feel like there should be 20 of these.
Yeah, so there's 11 of those, and then there's it would be less than 20 sides because it'd be like 18, because you've got the QD system in the back and those kinds of things.
Well, we're still missing some, definitely, though, right?
Yes, yeah, we're missing at least 7 more. They'll probably be there by next week, and they're all being done at that little tent right there. So at the top of the screen, you see that black piece. It's
What do
just
you mean?
tarps. They're making them and welding them in that tent. So straight in the middle of all of that stuff right there. Just zoom in to the left, right there. That's the little tent they're doing it all in. So they're doing all the welds in there.
I thought we saw them get delivered, though, didn't we, Jax?
I saw them come in on one of the live cameras, I think, but they might be doing more work to them. I'm not sure.
Well, so like the additional welds, they are doing it right there. That's their little welding tent, and you can actually see another piece.
So there's
inside.
12 then. Yeah, there's 12 of them then. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, actually, I think we have photos of them coming in on Hoop Cam.
That's
I'm not
awesome.
sure if I have those.
These are, man. So we have leg. All these are for legs. This is for the to cover up the drawworks. I think the dead anchor on the drawworks. Man, I'm so excited. These are the wrong color for orbital launch mount steel, but that's
They
okay.
haven't painted it quite yet.
Well, the orbital launch mount steel came in white, but it was, I guess we don't really know the true color of it because it was painted white and then they shaved it off. But it looks like a different type of steel to me. But either way, super exciting. Like I said, I've been waiting. I don't even know how long anymore. Lost track of time. Definitely more than a year for this to arrive. But it makes sense. I mean, they had a ton of stuff to do on the exterior of the launch mount. And again, the fact that this is coming here means that they are almost done with it, because once you put those covers on,
yeah, so you can see the angle really well on that one.
Yeah, this is like pretty much perfect. Yeah, it oh, I think you're right. Actually, it may
it kind of makes a little bit of a triangle going down, so it's got that bunt cake look to it.
Oh, I'm so excited about this. It's going to look amazing once that is done. Like, people you guys are lucky that you're Starship fans now instead of like, a year from now when you come and see this launch mount and it's just like a perfect disc and you're like, oh, how does it work? And all of us will remember when it used to look like this. And even seeing it before they covered up the legs is awesome too. But I think we've been talking a lot of crap about how the launch mount looks as far as it being such a I don't even know the right word for it, but
aesthetically, it'll be pleasing now.
There's just a lot going on, right?
Right now, it's got the spaghetti monster look to it.
Yeah, agreed. And one of the things that I am wondering about actually is if there truly is a need to cover the bottom stuff. Like, I would like to see that, but number one, protecting this from above is super important. And the reason for that is because, well, actually, let's go ahead and look at an image from Elon. Where did I put that? An image that Elon posted. Oh man, we got to talk about this one too, because Thomas, have you seen it?
The one that Elon posted? Yeah,
that was pretty amazing. 1 second, I'm searching for it here.
But I thinking about the covers at the bottom, I would love to see negative awning. So like if you took an awning, flipped it over, and you basically protect the pipe work and other things, it actually lasted really well. Like just a bit of paint, but when it lifts off, it is wow. Oh, that's a good one too. Yeah, you can see the walkway right here, how it's I forget what the right word for this is. It's a grate.
Yeah, graded walkway. And so from above, with the booster like lifting off of the pad, you kind of have to worry about, one second. You kind of have to worry about the flow that goes over this edge. So I was always thinking that as soon as the booster lifts off, it's going to destroy this walkway. And on top of that, the actual exhaust would be going down through those graded walkways and then basically passing through all this pipework. So having that shield above will stop that from happening. And I mean, it really protects everything down below. The question is whether or not it's necessary to protect this from the bottom. But I think when we look at the aftermath, well, they did paint all of this before, right?
Not on the right side, but all of this was painted before. So
it's kind of toasty, but it's not horrible.
Long term, I want something at the bottom to help protect it. It makes sure that you do not have gas leaks and other issues occurring later on, where you just have to constantly, let's say, otherwise go through and protect the pad and other things. And all it takes is a good rock size to basically run into that at a good speed, and you now have a leak if the foam is gone, and that's starting to get torn away slowly over time. So heat damage is not going to be helpful to that side right there.
Well, at least we're protecting it from the top. One of the things that I've always thought about is just, and this is from a render that Ryan Hansen Space made a while ago. Let me see if I can pull that up really quick. Usually I like to have these things ready ahead of time, but I'm just thinking of it on the fly. But basically this render that he made for a thumbnail for one of my episodes was very frightening.
Yeah, frightening to say the least.
Yeah.
Did he use a physics engine to create that?
I don't know, but it's amazing. With the first time I saw this, I think I was with Jax when I opened it for the first time, and we zoomed in on it and it was like, whoa, that is scary. Because you can see, number one, it almost looks like plasma coming off of a heat shield as it's re-entering the atmosphere. But you can also see the way it curls over, right? And then you have the flame coming up from the bottom too. I mean, man, whole thing's just going to get roasted. So yeah, I mean, this part right here will literally be the last unprotected part of the launch mount here soon. But I highly doubt it'll stay that way.
The fun thing is about renders like this is as much accuracy and detail he has in it. Wait a week, SpaceX will change something and make it inaccurate, but this is so accurate in the flames and the exhaust and everything that's there. Oh, that's glorious.
The part that kind of hit me the most is look at that QD hood. It is getting slammed.
Yeah.
It's going to be like...
We both said at the same time, yeah. Interesting thing about that is actually that if we look over at the Sanchez site, and I don't think we talked about this last week, but there's another QD hood there.
We talked about it a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, yeah. So that is a very interesting thing to note about that image is that it definitely looks like the QD is just the hood is getting just straight roasted in this image. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this ended up having to get replaced after the first launch, but I mean, I don't know. At the same time, if this has to get replaced, then I worry about the entire top of the launch mount. Well,
it needs to be painted every time, obviously.
Yeah, I mean,
well, and then one thing that we've noticed at the very top in that rendering, it's a good example, is the horizontal railings are removable. So there's a good chance that they will remove the horizontal part of the railings, but the vertical part of the railings, they're actually welded down, so they're not going anywhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it would be a bunch of posts just naked without the railings, which would be very strange to look at. But that's the way that it appears as far as the basically the railings are bolted together.
I've been thinking about that as well too. If they don't take these off, they're gonna be gone anyways.
It'll look like their fence, how the fence is bent over and torn apart, and that's only probably 40 meters, 30 meters away, and it's a buried fence. This is 2 meters away from the exhaust of these engines as it's lifting off.
One
So
of the biggest things I'm worried about is what's going to happen to all of these cameras. So these are the cameras. You can actually from the ground view, you can see that in between each of these.
you can see one right there on the top,
center plates. Yeah, you can see the cables for the camera coming
you
up
can actually see the
underneath
camera
there.
just to the top of this right there, I think.
Wait, what?
Is that it?
I don't think so. They're super low profile.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think you could see them from this angle. You
can see how it's bolted on the railings.
Hold on. I have an image of this from Mauricio that was taken. Oh man, I bet you I know the date. January 20th of 2021. Let's see. Maybe it was January 14th. Let me just check really quick.
Which photos are you looking for?
The ground images that show the bottom side of the launch mount. So it was January 24th. I think I have the image here. Maybe. One second, everybody.
I have that folder labeled OLM.
Oh yeah, I should have labeled it because it was a really epic. Oh, sorry, it was January 20th. So here we go. Show this one. Never again. We will never have this view ever again unless Elon gives it to us. And honestly, I wish we could see this view because a lot has changed down here, which I'll talk about briefly in a moment. But yeah, you can see the camera right there. And also when you look at it from the aerial view, you can really see that, one second. You can really see that the wires are protected by some sort of shield, and then the cameras are right there on the edge. Like, I feel like all of those are going to get just destroyed. There's zero chance those survive. So I'm a little worried about those just because if it also destroys everything up here, then they have to, I don't know how easy it is to like run new wire up through that little gap down there. Like I'm sure there's some space to move it easily, but I think this is one of those things that may have to get replaced every single launch right now. I'm actually surprised there's not a whole plate above that covering all this stuff. That's what
It'll actually probably survive a couple of launches for those cameras. We were looking at a camera that got ripped off of test stand B. That was basically just went out to the mud flats, and you could see the internal wiring had been melted, and that the camera itself was still potentially operable if it didn't have all the wiring melted. But the cameras themselves are actually fairly cheap. I mean, they're $400, $200 for these cameras.
Right.
They're like basically webcams, or I'm sorry, IP cams. So like security cameras, they're glorified security cameras. But in this case, they're in those protective housings. The housing stays pretty well secured until it hits by like a rock or something, and then the glass will break or shatter. And it's multi-layered, and so those seem to be working out pretty well up to a point, but you do need to replace them regularly.
Right. So I guess we'll move on from that a little bit, and we'll talk about underneath the launch mount, because I'm sure you all want to know how that pad held up.
Yeah, that's right. We had a big static fire, didn't we?
We did. Before I show those images, I'll show us a little video of the actual static fire. So we had some footage from Mauricio himself. Let me see if I have that ready to go. What did I do with that? Oh man.
But while you're looking for that, one thing to observe on the outside is between each leg, you can actually see the pattern. It's like a star shape, a 6-star shape that is very long on the points, and these dark trails are from the exhaust of the booster when it did its basically 31 engine static fire at about almost 50% thrust.
Oh, you know what?
You get this beautiful pattern there.
I want to take a step back really quick because I was going to talk about this and I forgot. So this right here is the bottom side of the launch mount. This is nuts.
Whoa, that changed a lot.
A lot. This is like a bank vault down here now. Like I don't fully. We're still trying to figure it out because it's tough to understand the angles without comparing it. But it almost looks like these come out at an angle. almost just a slightly shallower angle than the actual arms themselves. The arms have a massive plate added onto the bottom of them, so they've shielded the actual arm itself. They've shielded the backside, that the back wall. So I'm almost wondering if these are removable, and like, because this inner face right here is gonna get a lot of direct contact with the exhaust as these engines pass by. I mean, you can see they're nearly touching. This is crazy. Like, it is insane the amount of work that they did down here. I love Elon for posting this picture. I'm not really a fanboy, but I like when he drops information on us. And this was a big one because we've been trying to figure out the shielding for a long time, and we had no idea that this was here. So that is major work that they did down there. And literally, I mean, shout out to SpaceX for pulling all this off without us noticing that this was happening, because that's a big one. We usually, I feel like, catch most things, but that was a major shock. But let me go ahead and move on to those the images from Mauricio, and I'm just going to pull these up on Dropbox so we can see footage from the static fire test. I don't think this is going to pull through volume. I don't want it to.
See all that ice just coming off, and then the looked like the LOX tank was venting.
This is amazing. Like the way that the flames are coming around the edge of the tower, like, oh my god!
You see how it pulses too.
That pulse is when you can see the pulse, but right here is when the outer 20 engines come on. You can see the moment that the outer 20 engines come on just by looking at the left side of the tower right here. Boom. Crazy.
Yeah, so Mauricio, when you took this footage, you were over at Raptoroost, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And I don't know if you all saw the tweet that Elon sent out responding to Marcus House, that it wasn't as loud as they expected. And I felt the same way. You know, I had Princess with me, and I was concerned she was going to get extremely scared. Well, she actually slept through the whole thing. So it wasn't that bad.
I mean, it's incredible. Like, Connor was saying just a few feet away from you, and he was basically saying the same thing. And the wind was kind of coming your direction in general anyways. It was probably about 30 minutes later the smoke actually blew over where you guys were standing, is what he said. And the fact that you could not hear it to the point where it was like deafening or anything like that is a really, really good sign. You guys are just under 4 miles, so it's like 3.83 miles from basically the center of that launch table, and that's incredible. Like, it's really good news that you are not going to be to the point where it's too loud. Like, as it lifts off and goes above you, it'll get a bit louder because the sound is directed in the downward direction in your vicinity. So that's part of it, but this is really, really good news.
I want to point out one thing that I saw from Rob Shaw in the comments. He mentioned this LOX vent coming out right here from the LOX tank. I'm pretty positive that this is... so when the engines turn on, they're going to immediately start feeding the autogenous pressurization system. And so there is a possibility that with the LOX tank being completely full at the start, that there's just simply no room for that additional gas that's coming in from the engines to fill the top of the tank. So I think that, and we saw this during the 11 engine static fire test when they were testing the autogenous pressurization system. It actually, as soon as it got started, you could see the vent start coming out, and that's just basically releasing extra pressure that's being generated by the autogenous pressurization system.
It almost seems like they need a vent system for the autogenous pressurization. Like,
agreed.
They have too much pressure.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just wasting propellant, because some of that's liquid is just shooting out.
Yeah, it seems to me like it's overperforming. But that's not a bad thing, because
Do you also have the
say-
SpaceX video with the drone shot?
Yes,
as well?
of course. We have SpaceX footage right here, and their timer was super jacked.
It was off by like 10 seconds or 11 seconds.
Yeah. I think it's at T minus 16 or something like that. Nope.
There you go. 13. That was such a surprise and treat. Was definitely not expecting that live stream
right there.
Yeah, well, you and I were on together on the stream, on Lab's stream, watching this, and that was so cool.
Honestly, I've been dreaming about that moment for a long time. I want to apologize to my boss because I just took off work randomly when that happened. I got sick. But yeah, it was an awesome day. Like I was really excited for so long, just waiting to be able to like cover that event. So really excited I was able to do that. And honestly, Thomas, thanks for being there with me. But
do you have the flyover of when it was from the drone footage that they posted afterwards?
Yeah, let me pull that up really quick.
Because there's one other thing to point out that not many people noticed, but Stumpy did. And once you see it, you don't forget it, and it's incredible to see. Like there's two things: and everybody saw the bird. If there was a bird on the chopsticks, and that's not the big one. It's something else. Kind of a bit of a surprise. So I'll tell you in a pause. Now. So watch at just at the bottom right hand of the left view. Yeah, so look to the right there. Yeah, watch right there. You see a little pop? And there. So there's a bit of methane going out from that system, and it started venting. Weird. Yeah, it was venting right when they were starting it up. So it looks like the issue is that as the system starts up, and especially right here, it it ignited a little bit of methane, and they're safe now. But the interesting thing is, like, what kind of systems do they have on it? They checked it out afterwards and it looked to be fine, but it should have a backflow preventer, or not backflow. What is it called?
Flame arrestor.
Flame arrestor, yeah. So if a flame does do what it did, it doesn't travel down the pipe, and that should just be pure methane. But in case it goes a bit more combustible, backflow preventer will help with that. And zoom out again real quick just to show the flame marks here, just all of it.
Oh yeah, you can see easily, like this is the whole flame mark down here. So on the NASA spaceflight camera, they caught a massive amount of, no, I wouldn't say massive. The reason I downgrade that qualification of being massive is because if you ever watch the STS-124 space shuttle, watch it, go search for that on YouTube. You'll see what a massive amount of debris looks like. Anything that's happened at Starbase really has nothing on that event. That was literally like tons of material being ejected from the flame trench. But all of the debris that I believe that we saw on the NASA spaceflight footage came from this area right here. So this is everything that was received direct flame. You can kind of see
every light spot. Every light spot is concrete that's been ripped up.
Spalling damage, yep. And there's nothing right here. You can easily see that this concrete is in better shape than what's right here, and over here as well too. You can definitely see it.
It's amazing at how much the just these small little legs constrict it, because they are going very directed energy outward, and they're going down, but they're also going outward. And now let's zoom in on the top surface here, because this is what most people really want to know, is how bad the surface is. It's not bad at all. One other view to look at is the ground view. You can actually get a little bit better sense of it. So like the cracks and the edges, there is a lot more spalding. There's a lot more issues there. But when you actually look at the profile view and kind of when it's wet, Mauricio got the perfect shot. Actually, it was just to the right.
Are you sure it wasn't this one?
I'm pretty sure, but he got a lot of good shots. So yeah, it was one more to the right, but this will work. So you can see the Spalding that had occurred. It's not that deep. The Fondag did an excellent job. It's just the interface between the two. That's where you need like Martite in between to basically seal it. Make sure you don't get water penetration, because what happens is water gets in between. It rapidly expands 1,000 times its volume and basically starts blowing pieces of Fondag or concrete apart, because it's like that expansion ratio is pretty bad, because the Fondag transfers the heat extremely well.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like it did a fantastic job. I mean, it looks super smooth to me underneath there. So I would say that, well, okay, first of all, let's acknowledge the fact that was 31 engines and they were at 50% throttle, which, sorry.
Double that damage and you're still looking pretty good.
47% throttle if you look at what was available. So they only used 31 out of 33 engines. If they, total available thrust, it was 43%. 44%. And then if you subtract away the fact that they only used 31 engines, then it was 47%. Sorry, I may have got that wrong. Let me
look at the left side of this. This is incredible. The doghouse as well.
1 second. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, that's why you're pulling that up. That you can see how white it is. That's where the flames hit. And you can see how much damage it does to the doghouse there.
Okay, correcting those numbers, 47% of max thrust and 49% of available thrust.
And it's even going to get worse in the future. Right now, they're 230 metric tons. They're going to 250. That's their goal. So with the current version 2s, you're looking at 230 and like 2.5, maybe another 5-10% or tons extra there. And that 250 is going to be huge.
We have several questions on the static fire here. Do we want to touch base on those?
Yeah, go ahead and do that.
All right. Before we do that, we did get a 10-euro donation from Jonas Hoydon. Thank you so much for that. And then we also have another donation here from Rocket Profit, $25 for 900 likes. Thank you, Rocket Profit. Another PayPal donation from Maxwell Charles, $10. Flower Fund, happy birthday from Austria. Thank you so much. And then thank you so much for the donations. And then the questions we have here are: do we think we'll get any more static fires before we get to the orbital flight? That's one of the questions.
No other static fires are necessary, but they can always do extra static fires. So they're replacing probably 2 engines, or at least adjusting one of the engines they never static fired, and then doing probably another couple of static fires. Whatever engines that they need to test out, it would be good to basically go through the entire routine, just a small static fire for those. Nothing like we had before. And it would just be to verify the systems that you've replaced.
All right, and then we have a question here from Rocket Profit. Please touch on the topic of the 2 Raptors that did not fire during the static fire, during the 31 engine static fire.
Okay, so one of them was turned off like minutes or moments before they did the static fire. Basically, it was coming back with bad readings, and that's probably why it was holding at T40 or T-minus 40 seconds, is because there were issues. It was saying, I'm no good, don't let me go. And so they stopped their sequence, and then they adjusted that, removed the engine from the sequence so it doesn't start up. And then there was one engine that did start up and then briefly shut down afterwards. So it saved itself. And one issue that Elon Musk talked about is that the engines like to eat themselves, especially towards startup and shutdown. Like those are the two critical points. So one of the issues that could be, this is speculation, that the engine started eating itself and it was eating the jacket. So it has the ability to sense the pressure amount. And that's one of the sequences that they will see the pressure drop, and immediately they basically do a safe shutdown so that it does not eat through the rest of the jacket. And the cool part is they'll still take that Raptor and use it or parts of it and put them on another Raptor. So they're producing so many parts and the materials, but they can just reuse what they need to and then test that engine and say, okay, it's good. And that's one of the things we were looking at was Massey's. If they're ever doing a horizontal test stand, you would be able to do that kind of work at Massey's instead of shipping it all the way to McGregor.
Really quick before we touch on any more questions, we are nearly at 1,000 likes. That would be our first time ever hitting that. So if you will all do us a huge favor if you haven't already and hit that like button. We're nearing the end of the stream, but we still have another important topic to cover. So we'd appreciate all of you hitting the like if you haven't done so already. And Mauricio, any more questions?
Yes, we have another one from John Dopker. Do you all think the berm was high enough for that 50% thrust, or do you all think it should go higher?
Well, let's get a zoomed out view of the berm. That'll show the issues and how well it did. From the right side, if you can show it.
Well, I maybe can do us one better and show Sapphire Cam view.
That'd be awesome.
So this would be Sapphire. Maybe. Okay, not sure why that didn't come up. Give me 1 second here. Very odd. It's like everything just froze up because I opened up that video.
So Jax is going to be headed out here. Jax, you want to say goodbye to everyone before you leave?
Yeah, thank you. I'm just going to step off a little bit early here. I think this was a pretty good episode. Most viewers consistently ever for these streams. So I think we topped off at 1,300 at one point. So thank you, everybody, for watching. And yeah, I'll see you all when I see you.
See you next week, Jax. Thank you.
Jax, take care.
All right, let's see this.
Boom. I feel like it mostly goes over the tank farm. It doesn't go through it like it did last time.
It's like it hits it at that brunt barrier, and at the same time the ramp.
Yeah,
and then it kind of angles it up with the.
I mean,
ramp
you can see with the cloud that the one in the center of the screen is the tallest one because that's basically the one that's the part of it that's going over the berm. Sorry. Put a lot of time at the front of this. Usually like to start our videos when the water deluge or the fire exit comes on. Pow. So yeah, I mean, you could see it hit the berm and then the cloud right here in the center starts rising faster than everything else. Honestly, I kind of expected to be able to like actually see it change in that upward direction, but you really couldn't really tell. But I don't know. In my opinion, it looks like the berm is probably good.
Yeah, you could actually look at the aerial shot of the damage that was to the berm. Basically, it's like that charring look that you see on the concrete, like how this concrete to the right, it sticks up a little bit higher, and then so it gets a little bit charred. This is what you see on the berm. You see that it's a little bit darker. It's got some soot. It's got some basically dust and other things that have hit, but it looks good. And the only thing that's behind it that would be a tank is way below it, and I don't even see any dust on it. For goodness sake, it's looking amazing.
Yeah.
The probably the biggest one is to the right would be that little tank, but it's in the middle of the lake, so it would the one we called Frankenstein or Frankentank because it had stuff all over it. Now it's just tank.
Well, I mean, one of the interesting things about when you look at it from this angle, actually, you can see that the with the leg being right here, it creates a cone of no exhaust flow. So you can see like where that cone of
safety,
right cone of safety, pretty much. So the next cone of danger actually comes straight through this area, and wow, you can even see it. The edge of where the flame was touching right at the end of that pad.
Wow, it even got the dirt below. That's incredible. It's like I'm cooking everything here. Some poor lobster's wandering right there, and it's instantly cooked.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, the good news at the end of all of this is that the concrete pad in the center did its job, and that's a very good thing. So,
Okay, so we got 10 minutes left. Let's get to the big stuff.
sure you don't want to save it for next week?
I'm sure, because if we don't say it, somebody else will say it before us. But it's big news.
Whatever. All right. So, number one, we are expecting water deluge. Actually, let's back up. Let's back up a little bit. So, for those of you who joined the show late for some reason, at the Sanchez site, we have. Okay, that's not the view I want. I need the perfect view.
It's that one right there. You just passed it.
I don't like this one.
No, not that one. It was you went past it so fast.
Give me a second.
Find the perfect view. Do it.
Shoot. Here we go. Yeah. So we have this section of pipe which has all these nozzles on it, or the start of some nozzles. So we're expecting some more pipes to get mounted onto each of these. As a matter of fact,
looks like that pipe is actually open and
is it the same size as these? It's actually a little smaller,
no.
right?
So go back to the pile of pipes and then zoom in and then go to the right, next to those orange boxes. So
this right here.
Go to the right.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
up. You passed it. So those orange tackle boxes are those right there. Those are the pipes that they're using for.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, they're like 10-inch pipes.
Jesus. 10 feet.
No. The diameter is about 10 inches.
Okay, I was talking about length. More like 15. But wow. So those you think will go on? Yeah, that's the right ones. So they got a lot more of those to deliver then. And also, this gives you a good idea of how deep underground this is going to have to go.
And this is just for these little nubs that you're talking about here.
Yeah, like this is a big job. So if we go back to the
that's
the
perfect.
launch pad, one of the things I've noticed so far is that they've started. Well, we can't really say for sure that they're breaking this out. They may actually be just putting piles in the ground for some reason. But to me, it looks like they might be about to break this out. And so what I would expect is this to split off in multiple directions around here. Right now, you can see that they've kind of got this fenced off down here, almost like they're going to lay the pipe against this wall. But
I would assume so, for the reason that if you continue the pipe work to the right, so if you kind of back out a little bit and go to the right, you could see that you could continue this wall over to the right, and then beyond that will be this pipe, and then this pipe will go beyond it'll just reach in from the right-hand side where they just removed all of that stuff, and it'll just go straight in where that leg is, and it'll be above ground on part of it because you have that, we call it the doghouse, but there's pipes underground right there you can't go through. But however, you could go between the legs. So you go up and over and then back down. And then you also have to now have like a flame diverter for the part of the pipe.
right.
But you basically have it for where that trailer's at. So that trailer would be in that direct line. So it basically kind of do like 120 degrees and or basically kind of start headed backwards. So it's even more, it's like 100 and would be like 90.
Right. Yeah, this is exciting. I mean, because we know that. I mean, so if we look at just the distance in between these two legs, and then go back to that image at Sanchez, you can kind of see that this gap. I mean, this space where the pipes are actually at is basically just perfect to fit in between those legs. And let's look at another view. I think this was actually the view that you wanted to see. And now I know why.
And I agree with what you're saying. I will put out the other idea, because I like to be able to at least float ideas for other people who like these ideas. It could be that they go vertical in front of the legs. I don't like that particular idea, but it is an idea that would be workable. You just need a flame diverter again with the legs with these pipes. And it would be a very different system, though.
I wouldn't like it.
I know. I agree with what we're going in. This one has the those little pieces coming out on this one as well. So
Where's the? I need like
it's
one
just
of these ones. Huh?
like one or two images over it. It gets it. That one's the perfect
There
one.
we go. So
They continue from left to right. You can see all the way over to the right, all those pieces. And then this one continues off
nozzles.
Yeah.
Oh wait,
so this one
it does come right
yeah.
here, so you can see more nozzles right there.
Yeah. And so this you can already see that this will have an additional segment of pipe angled about 20 degrees, like that one or a different one. It will angle over to the upside because you can see that it's been cut so that you can add another pipe to it.
I feel like okay. So we have this one single pipe over here, right? I think that what we might see is just this one, whatever the most difficult location for them to reach is probably where this one is going. And then you'll have 1, 2 coming off of this side, and then probably this direction and this direction coming off of this one. So 2 legs, 3 legs, and then 1. Or sorry, 2 gaps. This will cover 2 gaps. This will cover 3 gaps, and this will cover 1. That's just kind of how I'm guessing this may end up looking. But actually, I take that back because this one right here is kind of pretty clear that it'll be the end of the line because there's a cap on it.
I don't think there's a cap on that one. It's kind of weird. It has the end planished, so you can see it's silver in its color. So that's where you've gone through and made the material bare so you can weld onto it. The problem is it's directly in the shadow, so you really can't tell if there's a cap. So it could be that they planished it, welded on a cap, but I would expect the cap to have a bit of a dome shape to it, but I don't see that.
See a little dome
I just
right
see
there.
that they've planished it, and
Look.
Never good with these things, so.
That's cap.
Look at the shadow. You can also see in the shadow as well.
Oh yeah, look at the shadow.
But it's round.
Anyways. So going back to the launch complex. As
I said, my eyes are never good with this.
We have some preparations. There's a lot of stuff going on here. So first of all, we have this retaining wall that they put along the perimeter.
It's not just a retaining wall. It looks to be for a retention pond. So this will be for at least the first segment of their water deluge system. It's not going to be the full water deluge system. It's like a partial. This would carry enough of the water that's in the water hammer tanks, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense. I mean, I have a feeling that it'll be below grade and not above grade right here because I don't know if you really want to put that much water against these walls like that, like 5 feet of water going against them. But I guess the base that they're sitting on is probably pretty strong, so maybe it's not a huge deal. But one of the interesting things is where the current ditch is going right now. So we have basically this is where it stops right here, and then goes in front of the tower, and then makes a turn right here. I have a feeling this pipe right here that's not its final resting location. That's more than likely probably fits perfectly right here. So we'll see a long pipe right here. And then we also have the manifolds at Sanchez. These 2 manifolds right here, which connect together. So this one will actually get flipped around and connect this direction. So this hole right here actually connects to there'll be a pipe that connects that one to this manifold. And so this is basically the buffer tank that for like a water hammer arrestor.
And so the other tank that I've talked about before, so if you've got those 2 lines, and it basically would run parallel. And if you go backwards a bit up to that little square berm up above, sorry.
This one?
No, go up. Sorry. Not berm, but the square pile of dirt. So in this area right here, it appears that would be the potential location for a water tank.
Yeah.
Similar to what they have at 39A, but it comes in and it gets into that manifold system, and that manifold system then connects to this. So you basically have them in parallel. So 2 lines running parallel to each other, then it would have to do a 90 degree a little bit to really reorient it to that manifold system.
Oh, now that I look at the length of this, so this pipe could actually come straight through here from the water tank, turn in this direction. That'll be difficult unless it goes underground.
It would be a short turn, just a little stub of a turn. It goes into the manifold, and then that manifold is connected to this, and then from that manifold, it would be to the left side. It continues on straight for the this direction, yeah, and then goes.
Something's going to have to go underground.
It doesn't have to go underground here. That's the thing. It's all above ground.
Well,
just like
so
a 39A.
I'm assuming that those manifolds will go across in this direction.
Yeah.
So with that being said, this has to turn in between them. Like this pipe goes in between those two manifolds. I think.
Go back to the manifolds real quick, or better yet, do you have a picture of 39A? Yeah. And I do know we have gone past our hour here, so we might be losing Mauricio right now.
Oh yeah, it's his wife's birthday. I was gonna say, who cares about the Super Bowl? But let's see. 1 second. I'll try and grab an image of that quickly, hopefully.
So yeah, just keep in mind these two manifolds, and when we get to 39A, it's a perfect example of how it will look, except we're orienting the tanks 90 degrees. So that's one thing you'll have to watch for, is that the tanks have changed. But this is all huge news. Like, having this water deluge system, or the pipes for it, is huge. So here we go. So the tanks are rotated 90 degrees from what it will be. But if you basically rotated them, you now have the layout.
And the pipe in the center is the one that connects to this manifold over here. So it goes... Okay, so I guess it doesn't need to go underground because these just go over it. So that'll be interesting to watch this actually get set up once they finish that.
Yeah, so that main line that was towards us at the bottom, that was from the main tank, that vertical tank. So water comes rushing down, and it's similar to this aspect. It would be on the right side. So the one closest to us down at the bottom would be the one that would be on the right side. That's that long line. And it looks like they've got that line essentially to the left will be the one they reuse for different purposes.
This one?
Yeah, so they would reuse that line right there.
I was always confused why this one was so long.
It's like another water hammer arrestor. It's really weird.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if they were maybe going to expand like the amount of tanks here or something like that, but I don't know if they brought that piece with them. I don't think they did.
It could be that one that's the long one that they just cut off the end.
I think the long one is this one right here.
Okay.
Possibly. But tough to tell, but we will be able to see a lot more of that once they actually get this in the ground. But I don't know. In my opinion...
And they've done a lot of groundwork right here as well. Just to mention the last thing, there's that CO2 tank right up there that with the little HESCO barriers. They ran a line directly across, and they will still probably move this because it's going to be potentially in the way of those systems that we're looking at. Shoot, what are they called? Manifolds, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see those move, although they may be able to get by it. I don't know. But
huge news.
Main thing that we're missing in all of this is obviously a gigantic water tank. So that'll be interesting to see whether or not when they start making progress on that. It looks like they're about to pour a ton more concrete in here. They got all this road base in here. This is gravel, it looks like, for the actual basin here. But the rest of it is more than likely for laying concrete on top later at some point. So I think we're going to see tons of activity over here, obviously, until the first orbital flight test. Question is if this is just a preemptive thing for after the orbital flight test, or if they're actually going to try and do this before. Either way, I mean, given what they're doing now, how fast they're moving, and what they're about to do on the actual launch mount, and you can see those little brackets from here. I just don't think we're going to see a beginning of March launch, but I would love to be proven wrong.
So I don't think they're going to do that main water tank. I think they're just going to use the hammer arresters to drive some amount of water deluge. That's my hope and opinion. Because if they build that massive tank like they have similar tanks at 39A, it's going to take like 6 months.
Yeah.
And that's going to suck.
Agreed.
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
We could probably end now, and Mauricio can move along and
We have
go to his
any-
wife's birthday.
I think we'll skip the last minute questions, but if we have any donations, we can touch on those.
And we can answer. At least I'll stick around in the green room to answer last minute questions for those who are patron members. You can jump into the after show. We'll go over some other things, and that'll be great. So yeah, what do we have as far as the remaining members here, or the donations, Mauricio?
All right, donations. We have a new membership here from Daniel's Weather Space Station. Just became a member. Thank you so much for that. We got Rocket $9.99. And thank you for your support. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And I did put a poll in the comment section. Will the deluge be ready before or after the orbital flight? What do y'all think?
What did they respond with so far?
Right now, it's pretty much 50-50. Well, actually, no, it's more 45% before, 55% after.
Well, if I'm correct, it'll be both. They'll have a water deluge system before, but it's not the whole system. So they'd still need that main tank, and that would solve a lot of those problems that they would potentially have.
Yeah, I should rephrase it. So the poll was more, will the deluge be ready before or after orbital flight?
Then it'd be after, fully
All right.
ready.
All right. Well, other than that, I mean, that's pretty much it for me. I want to thank everybody for being here today. And we did the top viewership right now was, I think we reached it up to about 1,300. So that's a new record. And thank you so much. I'll pass this along to Zach here, or Thomas.
It's been great
go
this week. Thank you for having me. Passing over back to Zach.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. It was really exciting to cover all of these updates this week. Sorry for the train in the background. But I'm sure we'll have even more to share with you all this week. So thank you all for joining us, and hope you all enjoy the Super Bowl or whatever you're doing after this. Yeah, I guess with that, stage separation or main engine cutoff, stage separation confirmed. Love you. Bye.